Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Critics Corner. Yeah, I'm sitting here with my two co-critics and hosts, Adam Piacente and Ashley Vanderhorn. We are not actual real publicated critics yet.
Exactly.
But one thing I will say is that on this show, we're going to talk about comic book movies, comic books themselves, and comic book shows. We're going to analyze the different things going on with Star Wars movies, with DC and Marvel movies, and their television shows. One of the things that I think is we can all contest is unique. Each of us are filmmakers, actors. We're in the business. We've studied this professionally, and we do this professionally.
Fanboys.
Yeah. That's right. Diehard fanboys our
Fan
whole
person.
life.
Diehard fan person.
Fan person, sorry.
Okay.
And we've been fans our whole life, not just because it's pop culturally fun right now.
Exactly.
So that's
we
what's
were
important.
fans when we used to get beat up for it.
Exactly, when it was uncool.
Yes, exactly.
You know? So I think what we're going to bring to this is a perspective as the fans and a perspective as filmmakers and artists ourselves. We'll dissect, we'll analyze, we'll bring a fresh perspective to all of this stuff. That's what you're going to find on Critics Corner. We want to make it fun and interesting. Please, we're going to have a YouTube page, Facebook page, comment, ask us questions, get involved in topics. We're excited about all of that. So
this universe is not going anywhere. We might as well educate people before they jump right into it.
Absolutely.
It's only getting bigger, and it's only going to last longer. So.
Absolutely. We've got a lot going on. Obviously, this year has a lot's happened. We've got Star Wars has come back for the first time ever. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Force Awakens is back. Disney, it's owned by a new studio, new direction, new
Conglomerate
everything.
Disney that owns everything.
Everything.
I think they own us too. We just don't know it yet.
That's kind of the biggest, that's one of the biggest things that happened in 2015, obviously, was that Star Wars came back. Also, now in the new year, we have a lot of exciting stuff happening. Fox and their Marvel world, they did Deadpool, which has been a fan favorite for a while. They're coming back with a new X-Men that's really an exciting storyline that fans have loved for almost all of time. Apocalypse, yeah. Now we've also got Warner Brothers really kicking its foot forward by trying to move its expanded DC universe into Justice League with Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. And then we have the MCU still kicking butt with Captain America Civil War.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot going on television. We have, for the first time ever, a shared universe with DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow, and, of course, Flash. And what I mean by the first shared universe is we have the first time ever of a multiverse, and we have the first time ever of a television team-up superhero show with DC's Legends of Tomorrow. We now have the start of two new DC shows, which was not just DC's Legend of Tomorrow, but it was Gotham on Fox and also Supergirl on CBS.
I hear that this is not only this is also the first time we have network crossovers.
That's correct.
Supergirl and Flash, right? And two
That's
different
correct.
networks crossing over
That
to
is
join
correct.
the universe. So it's pretty
Multiverse,
exciting.
guys. First time ever. I want everyone to be aware, and we're going to talk about this, that never in any of the movies, in any of the television shows, anything that's been live action, have we ever gone into the realm of the multiverse. And that has been something that has driven DC Comics from the very, very beginning. And it's exciting to see it finally played out live action.
It's such a big, bold statement for TV, too.
Absolutely.
Not just
Absolutely.
in a comic universe.
We got a lot going on in TV. And then, of course, we got a lot going on in Marvel television. We had last year Netflix kick butt with Jessica Jones and Daredevil expanding the Marvel universe in television.
Literally kicked butt.
Literally, yes.
Incredible.
Literally, yes. And just reached unprecedented fan attention and viewership numbers. And then we have, of course, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was on its second season this year, expanding the topics of first time ever live action in humans, bringing them to light. So we got a lot to talk about.
Big things.
Lot to talk about. So let's start with our first topic, guys. Batman vs. Superman. There.
You already know where I stand.
There you go.
Can't
Batman
wait.
vs. Superman.
wait till
Obviously,
Batman takes
Adam
down that
is
alien.
Team Batman.
Obvious.
So, all right, first let's discuss this Team Batman, Team Superman.
Ooh,
Gotta
the
pick a side,
tiebreaker.
Ash.
No, I gotta pick a side.
I guess Wonder Woman's in the
think-
battle, so you can pick her.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
in the
don't be so
Yeah.
cliche.
Come on,
No,
come
no,
on,
I'm not
come
gonna do that.
on.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm Team Batman.
Yes!
Yeah.
What is
Sorry.
going on here? What is going on?
Sorry.
This is your
You
show.
know,
How do you
it's
feel? Not even.
it is.
That
It-
hurts,
it
guys.
is.
That hurts.
That's how it
All right,
is.
so you know what? Let's talk about it. We now have the last trailer. Warner Brothers and Schneider said we're going to get some new TV spots, obviously, as we get closer. But we've had the last full trailer that we're going to get.
Which I think they are trying desperately to rectify the problems they have with the third trailer.
Right,
People
the
are
one
upset
that
about
quote
the
unquote
third
gave
trailer.
away too much.
Exactly.
Right.
I know I was upset when I saw it because I was like, oh, I was just so excited for the Batman vs Superman thing. Like, I want the third act reveal to be the third act reveal. I don't want you
Right.
to show me in the trailer.
You didn't
know
want
what
to
I
have
mean?
it in the trailer.
So
Absolutely.
in this one, they really stepped up their game, especially with the most genius part, which is show Batman in action. Because that's what everyone was worried
Right.
about. And
Right.
and
Well, let's be honest. The new so the new trailer starts with literally 30 seconds of Batman action.
Yep.
The trailer starts and we have some little comedy between Alfred and Batman.
Yep.
He's in the Batjet.
second.
Looks like a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Which, by the way,
like
can we just get
like
to the
a
fact that,
Predator.
Alfred is Scar from Lion King?
Yes,
Can we just
yes,
say Jeremy
yes.
Irons?
Jeremy
Isn't that just
Irons,
amazing,
yeah.
or what?
Let's,
When
you
I saw
know,
that on the cast, I
let's-
was like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
No,
I'm
he's.
so happy.
I think he's going to be one of the best Alfreds ever.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's such a
Yeah.
he's such a
You know,
badass.
so we started out. Batman crashes into a window,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and he just brutalizes the guys. Now we've seen Batman kick butt in all of his movies. Let's be
Yes.
honest. I mean, even in the Christopher Nolan series of Christian Bale. I mean, the fights that he had even with Bane in the last movie were extraordinary.
Bone
The
crunching.
choreography.
So you had it from the wham of Adam West to like the
Yep.
bone crushing
Yeah.
of that.
Bane and
So we've
that's
certainly seen Batman be brutal, okay?
Yes.
But
Not this
I
brutal,
think
that's why I'm
that
so-
exactly.
Yeah.
I think we can
Yeah.
all agree that we've never seen him this brutal.
Yes.
I mean, the start of that trailer and what he does. First of all, his agility and his
strength.
and his ability
His strength
is
is what
much
got it.
different. Bale, the way that they went with it was a very kind of in-your-face type of jujitsu. I remember him talking about it was a lot
Right.
of jujitsu,
Yeah, it's like
a lot of
taking
that
on 8
type of
people at once,
absolutely.
you know,
He
kinda-
would do a lot of crushing blows to kind of mobilize a bad guy,
Yeah.
and even you see that with Bane. But in this one, I mean, you've got a Batman that is. I mean, my man was leaping through the
Yeah.
crowd,
Yep.
and I mean, obviously the sound design is superb because the blows were crushing. And you hear heads crunching.
Yeah.
I mean, flipping, knocking
The
guys
thing
into.
that-
What
I
about the
think-
wall
the
shot?
thing I think that what's different about this one and the Nolan one is because Nolan actually, obviously, he always said he wanted to base everything in such reality.
Yep.
So the stuff that they're doing with this one, what Snyder's doing, reminds me of the cartoon Batman, where you see
Yeah.
him move as quick as lightning, and when
Quick,
he throws
yeah.
someone
Yeah.
against the wall shatters.
The
you know,
wall,
it was
that
like
was
concrete.
just-
Yeah.
When he planted that dude's head in the ground, he just stayed there with his head
saw
in the
that.
ground.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa,
Wow.
that's comic book
Wow.
right there. That's
Wow.
not.
I
That's
mean,
not like
let's
real life. That's
now
awesome.
let's also not forget that
Exciting.
Schneider has openly come out, and we all know this, but for anybody that doesn't, he's openly come out and said that the Batman that is created in this is based on Frank Miller's famous Dark Knight
Knight
Batman.
Returns.
Okay,
Yes. And you
so
can see
so
it.
the
see
Dark
it.
the Dark
He's
Knight
nailing it.
Returns story that Frank Miller created in the comic books, you have a Batman that is aged, somebody
more
that is
weathered.
retired. Now the reason why he was
Retired and
Weathered.
tired.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly,
tired of doing
exactly.
everything.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
just
being
just a
a
brief
hero.
understanding. If anybody's read it, read it. But the idea of Frank Miller's graphic novel was that we came to a point in the world where the world didn't want superheroes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they retired their capes, and now the government was in charge. Superheroes aren't around, and the only one that's around is Superman. He works for the United States government, the president, and
Reagan.
Exactly. So what happens is that you got a Batman that now Gotham's out of control. He comes back, but since he's old and tired and really just done with it all mentally, he comes back and it's not really being very, if you will, fair to the villains. I mean, he's like nearly killing people when he
Yeah.
comes back.
Yeah, it's
He's
like he's had
crushing
enough. Like,
both.
enough is enough.
No, I mean he's making examples of the bad guys.
Yeah.
He's sending people to the hospital that won't ever walk again.
Right.
You know, and obviously we see Schneider is taking tremendous cues
Yes.
from that. Obviously, in that graphic novel, Superman and Batman fight. The armored suit is from that, so we know he's taking all that.
Yep.
But more so, I think he's taking the ideology of who Bruce is,
Right.
and who he becomes as
After all those years.
returning
As a
to the
person,
cape
yeah.
in
Yeah,
the movie.
absolutely.
You see that. Ben
And he's
Affleck
pissed.
looks weathered.
Ben Affleck's back.
Let's
and
be
he's
honest,
pissed.
he looks pissed and weathered.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know, I mean, he
That's-
really does.
That's great.
So
That's why. For all the Ben Affleck haters out there.
how do
when
you
I-
hate this guy after
as-
seeing these trailers? How
Well,
do
no,
you,
that's just that.
how
After
do you
these
hate
trailers,
this?
what I'm trying
Yeah,
to get into
yeah.
is the fact that as a Batman fan, especially the Nolan trilogy, I consider that one long movie. I don't consider each one. It's just one long, awesome, amazing movie. And for being a Batman fan, when I heard Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, my
Yeah.
knees buckled. I almost threw up. I was like, this is. I wanted to pass out. I was like, you can't bring Bennifer into. and this is even after I've gained
You
respect
mean
for him
Daredevil.
again because
You
he's
mean
taking.
you can't bring Daredevil back.
Yeah, but to tell you the truth, I'm not a Daredevil hater. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed that first movie.
Oh my God.
I
I
thought it was
did.
entertaining.
No, I'm not
It
saying
was
a-
entertaining.
Thank you.
I don't,
Entertainment
you know,
aspect.
Yeah.
I'm not going based off
I
comic
wouldn't,
books
I wouldn't
whatsoever.
call it like,
It was
listen,
one
he's
of the
a
first-
genius,
it
but
was
it was
right.
entertaining.
It was
one of the
definitely
first. The
entertaining.
special effects were
It was
limited.
before
You can't hate on
filmmakers
it too
really
much.
knew how to make superheroes.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
is before
You know
the
what I'm
superhero.
saying?
This is at the very
was a
beginning of the boom of
non-explosion.
superheroes.
Absolutely,
This is
absolutely.
right
I think
after
the
off the
minute
heels
that
of
first
X-Men.
that first trailer dropped, he really proved himself as
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 bad.
That's when people are like,
Batman. Yeah.
Maybe this guy's got some potential.
Because
We
I
might be
started
onto
respecting
something,
him
yeah.
after he actually played. Lo and behold, he played Superman in Hollywoodland. I was like, all right. He
Yeah.
took some time off,
Absolutely,
got
yeah.
out of the limelight. You know, and he came back and he was like, all right, he's taking himself seriously now. And then he became a director directed 3 films, which I love, and I was like, this guy.
Let's
loves
not
it.
forget that Ben Affleck, as Adam said, in his recent career, for anyone that's hating on this guy, no matter what you say, this is a guy that in the last decade has proven himself as
Yes.
a 2-time Academy Award director. Now, he may
Mm-hmm.
not have won all that, but his movies have
won one.
garnered Oscar attention. He's gone
So that's why if you would've
back
told me
to
that-
back
He's
with
proven
Oscar
the right to be
attention.
here, yeah.
And he's not just been directing; he's been in these films.
Yes.
Okay, so he's
Which is
proven
way harder.
that
It's-
exactly.
it's
He's
not
been a
easy
part
to
of the
direct
writing.
and
He's
be
been a
one of
part
the
of the
leads in a
directing and
movie,
part of the
like,
acting.
that's-
He has proven that he can get Oscar attention, and these are movies that are not just little Oscar indie attentions. These are movies that have sold out at the box office and have garnered massive attention and praise.
So that's
by
why if you would have
critics.
told me that
Yeah.
he was to direct the next Batman, I would have been
I'd
leaping
all
for
for
joy.
it. Yeah.
Leaping for joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
was a little hesitant when I first heard he's going to be Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when what's it called? And he said he denied it. He said no. He's just same thing as Chris Evans did with Captain America. He was like no. He's like that's way too big of an undertaking. There's too
Absolutely,
many pissed
yeah.
off fans. No, thank
Yeah.
you. But he's like come in for a meeting. Let us talk to you about what we're going for. And he said after that meeting he felt confident. He was like
Yeah.
I can do this. So I can
Well,
do what they're
absolutely.
looking for.
Abs-
Because he's
absolutely.
older.
Absolutely.
They always try
No,
to
no,
get
no,
a young guy.
this-
Bale was
this-
29 when he
He
first
can
got the role.
relate to Batman in that sense.
Exactly.
You know.
He's
can
older.
totally-
Yeah,
he can
absolutely.
totally relate.
So I'm-
you know,
I'm-
this
I'm
is
excited to see
this is
what
the
he has.
first time
Yeah.
that we're going to get a comic book into a real comic book interpretation
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to. Hold on a second, my phone's vibrating. Sorry.
Busy man.
Anyway, I'll take that over.
So while we have like a brief pause,
Yeah.
let's bring this subject.
Yeah.
Let's like round it off to a close because we're at about like 11, 12 minutes.
Well, we
And then-
started at the beginning of the show though,
Oh, okay.
and we didn't go into the topic. We
didn't
got to
go into
talk a
the
little
topic,
bit more about Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're gonna bring it around. All right, let me start that off. But you know, to me, this is really the first time that we're going for kind of this purity of the image and the kind of style of the comic book on screen. You know, and I think that's what Schneider's really doing with this one. I mean, if you look at the Batman suit, you look at the story being so similar to the Frank Miller story, you're really
like you left
getting
off the pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're really getting a filmmaker.
Which is what you hope for as someone who read the comics too.
Absolutely.
You know, it's-
And
you
if
know,
you, for the people out there, if you don't want to read, I'm not a reader. I'm American. I don't read. No, if you're not a reader,
doesn't know how
they
to
made
read.
animated movies of this, which were fantastic.
Yeah.
Dark
Absolutely.
Knight Returns,
Yeah.
animated
Absolutely.
movies,
Yep.
a part 1 and a part
Absolutely.
2. They're definitely worth the buy. So if you don't want to read the comics, watch the movies.
Absolutely.
They're
First
awesome.
of all, DC's animated movies are just incredible.
Yes, I love them.
And they create them all based on popular story arcs that have existed through DC. So if you actually rent all of them and watch most of them, because there's over a dozen now, you'll really get a general knowledge of the comics, but you should still read them. The important thing is that Batman vs. Superman is definitely going to be a movie in itself that, if anything else, it is going to show us the linear path between taking a comic book and turning it into a movie in the most symbiotic way, if you can. It's going to be the most, I think, direct page to screen that.
And I
that
think
we've
they're in
ever
very
seen.
capable hands of Zack Snyder
Absolutely.
and
Zack-
David
you know,
Goyer.
Yeah.
I have
these
no
are
issues
comic
with
book
He's
fans.
taking things
Zack
back to
Snyder's
its roots
filmmaking.
too, you know,
Yeah,
like
absolutely. That's
down
when
to Wonder Woman's costume looking exactly like the original Amazon, like it
Yes,
should, you
Amazon,
know.
yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
I'm kind of
The
excited.
mythology's
to see,
alive with Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, I meant to say that the mythology is very alive in Wonder Woman in
Yeah.
this movie. Schneider has
Yeah.
acknowledged that her background and her existence is that she is from Themyscira. She is an Amazon. So
Yep.
to him, bringing her forward, everything from, like you said, like her clothes and her character
Yep.
and her history is all
Yeah.
about this particular character is not grounded with the rest of them.
Right.
She needs to be introduced this way, and this needs to be her lineage. And
Yeah.
I'm loving that they're
Yeah,
doing
I
this.
Which
love
is a
that.
credit
That's
to
great.
the actress playing her, Gal Gadot, which a lot
Yeah.
of people were up
What's-
in arms
the
about.
hate-
People are like,
yeah,
oh, she has
the
such a thick accent,
hate
whatever.
with that.
And then people are like, well, she's Amazonian. She wasn't American. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
She shouldn't sound like anybody else. Plus, they've also hated on the fact that she's kind of not muscular and scrawny, and they said, well, you know, Wonder Woman is that. I just want to challenge everybody to send in pictures to prove to me that Wonder Woman has ever been drawn in the comic books anything but a supermodel.
Yeah.
Okay? If
Yeah.
you can show
Yeah,
me anything
right.
where she's not a supermodel and she looks like she's butch with muscles, go ahead, mail those in, because from the original to the new 52, she doesn't look anything but a supermodel.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm fine with that. She's hot. She's
At the end of the
Wonder
show, we'll give you Peter's
you know?
address so you can start egging his house.
yeah. So there should be no hate on Gal Gadot. From everything that I've seen of her, she looks fantastic. Okay, and she respects the fact that this is an opportunity to make a superhero for women and young women and kind of bring a different dimension to it. And that's something
This
that
is
I
it for her.
respect.
This is her career.
This
This is
is-
her career.
This is
She's-
going to
be big.
So wait,
Yeah.
let's let's get to the big issues of Batman vs Superman. We've gotten past the actors. Let's get to the big issues of story. People are concerned that there is too much injected into this movie. We have Batman and Superman going after each other. We have Lex Luthor and his diabolical scheme. Now we know that he's creating Doomsday, and God knows what else is happening.
Yeah.
with him. And then we have Wonder Woman somehow injected. And then we have the rumor that somewhere in between it, we may see Aquaman and potentially Flash and Cyborg somewhere in between it, which is Ray
Which I'm
Fisher
sure are going to be
and-
throwaway cameos just to
Something,
say, hey,
yeah.
these guys are here.
But
you
the
know?
question still remains: can all of this be in this movie and still work?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so-
Yeah,
You know,
I
what do
don't.
you think?
I don't see why not. I mean, it has a lot to do with setup too. You know that a movie's what, an hour and a half to 2 hours long.
The runtime of this one's 2:45.
2:45. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
yeah,
fantastic.
It's
They
really
announced
long,
the
like,
Oh, the
runtime
longer the
was
better for me.
2:45.
I think that gives you ample
great.
opportunity to do
Absolutely.
To do
multiple
all of
things.
it.
You know,
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
If you think about it, I don't want to jump universes here, but if you think about it, what they did with the first Avengers, you had all these characters on one in
Yeah.
one movie, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "How are you going to do that?" And they did it effortlessly.
Well,
Like it was
they
beautiful.
did it seamlessly in
Yeah,
the
it was-
original
it was
Avengers.
incredible.
They made the
So-
story work. Well, I
it is
I agree
possible
with
to do
that. What you have to remember is that I think that the way, ultimately how I think they're going to set it up, is I think they're going to start the movie with, and this goes back to kind of some of the Man of Steel hate. And I think what people need to realize is that a lot of the hate of Man of Steel was the overt destruction that happened between the battle of Superman and of course Zod. Okay,
yeah.
and the issue that I have is first of all, I respect what Schneider did because the power level that Zod and Superman are at is so godlike that a battle between them would be that destructive.
I would
Right.
expect them to destroy
Exactly.
that much. Yeah.
Now, Superman on his own in a battle may hold back his power, and he may be
Right.
less destructive, but Zod would not. So Superman would have to meet him with as much power as possible.
Absolutely.
Now, think about this from a writing standpoint, guys. It wasn't just about their power levels, which is obvious. It also was in fact that they knew that carrying into this next movie, they were able to create a foundation of a story, a hate towards Superman that drove the world, drove Lex Luthor, and drove Bruce Wayne. The hate that such destruction was caused, that the focus of their hate is on Superman. That, hey, you caused this. Are you trustworthy? And that is now the foundation that drives Batman after him, and it drives Lex Luthor after him. So what I ultimately feel is that you'll have a movie where at the beginning of the movie, you'll have Bruce Wayne as Wayne Enterprises and LexCorp working together to try to rebuild Metropolis and kind of be almost a Red Cross relief, if you will, to help rebuild the city. That'll be that foundation. Now the world trying to accept Superman as a good figure, but big figures like Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor hating on him. And of course, them trying to sway the government against him. And that'll bring in the opportunity for Lex to secretly and diabolically, with probably some of the government, do what he does maliciously. Leading us to the creation of Doomsday while keeping the same linear story of Batman going after him in his own way. And then, of course, Superman proving him to him. And I'm sure Wonder Woman is as curious about his
Absolutely. I thought she was with you.
So,
So
the answer to that is I honestly believe that all of that can be done. You know,
Oh,
because if
absolutely.
you follow all
Absolutely.
of that.
And I think that we have one of the leg ups that this movie has is the fact that we already know so much about each character. You don't
Yeah.
have to introduce either one of them.
Right.
You have
Absolutely.
years and
Right.
years and years of knowledge, and even the people out there that don't follow the comic books, you at least know them and know their origin story because it's been done so many times.
So many.
So now they
Movies,
can
cartoons,
dive
everything.
headfirst into a story, not having to worry about explaining to you who
Yeah.
these people are.
Absolutely.
That's one
is
thing
cool.
from a scriptwriter standpoint that I think is interesting is that it's hard enough to write a movie, let alone the fact that you now have to think about the 4 other movies you're trying to set up
Yeah.
in your one movie in your script.
Absolutely.
Like
yeah.
that's not as easy as it sounds.
No,
And I
creating-
think they're doing it pretty well. You know.
Oh, absolutely.
I-
The expectation level
absolutely.
with fans will never. That's one thing that Kevin Smith always made fun of in his movies. Is
Oh,
all
yeah, the
people
expectation
that-
level is just-
when
You
the
can't
internet
please
lights up,
everybody.
you
It's
can't.
just it
You
doesn't matter
can't.
what you do. You
Exactly.
can't
All
please
right,
everybody. That's just the way it is.
what do we think about Doomsday? Because a lot of criticism has come out about Doomsday. The way he looked in the trailer, that he doesn't quite look like
I
his
didn't have
comic
a
book
problem.
counterpart.
I don't know.
Some people felt he didn't look like the comic book counterpart. They felt that his CGI, wasn't necessarily that. I just want to give you guys a brief understanding. If you haven't read The Death of Superman, which is probably considered it's the highest selling comic book ever that's ever been written, okay? Superman faces Doomsday. It's the introduction of Doomsday.
was my
For anybody
favorite one,
that doesn't
'cause he
know,
has-
the origin of Doomsday is that he was a creation by ancient Kryptonian scientists to be a perfect weapon, okay? And obviously, it went wrong. You know,
Yeah.
and they banished
As it so
Doomsday,
often
and
does.
Doomsday was like peace, you know. And we're talking ancient Krypton, not the Krypton we know that
Right.
that was destroyed with Jor-El. We're talking ancient Krypton, ancient scientist. He was banished. So there's a solid origin to Doomsday that connects him to Superman. He's not just a random figure that broke out of, his containment on Earth and killed Superman. They, over the years, expanded him in DC to be more of a connection to Superman, which I love, by the way. Now, in the New 52, they did something a little different. They went with a Doomsday kind of virus, and they went with this Doomsday situation in the New 52, where his virus inhabited Superman. Okay, and Superman was infected, and it was turning him into Doomsday. It was infecting his body and turning him into.
So
we
it's
had
like it's like the Spider-Man with the symbiote, like
very
that
much,
whole thing,
well, very
when
much,
he became
but
emo and started dancing
right.
around.
Superman was overtly becoming Doomsday, losing control,
Right.
and he would become a merge between the two, and Doomsday was taking over his consciousness. I just wanted to give you an idea of that. So now that you kind of know where they went with it, where the question is, what story are they going to go with here? How do you think they're going to change it? And more importantly, are you upset with the way he looks? I mean, are the fans right? Is the CG bad? Does the look bad?
Does that-
You know,
I don't. It doesn't bother me.
I'm not that connected
I mean,
to it for me to be that upset about it. I mean,
I
I
mean,
think he looked pretty cool.
I have like two.
What
I have like
what
two opposite
origin do you think
sides.
they're
I have
gonna
like
go?
two opposite sides to this theory. Where like I would love for the movies to be exactly as the comic books, but at the same time, as someone who's aware that that's totally impossible,
Yeah.
I'd like to see things a little differently.
Yeah,
Of, like,
exactly.
course.
New
Like,
vision
if you're
on-
not
on
going to be able to
certain
make the
things.
story exactly the same as the comic book, why should his costume look exactly the same? Why should anything look,
Why should
Yeah,
it-
exactly.
I don't have,
Because
you
let's
know,
say
I
it did
don't-
look exactly the same, but then they changed the character
Yeah.
type of bit. People would be all messed up. Oh, that wasn't him, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, now here's another thing fans have said, and I can contest to this, reading the comics. Doomsday does have an evolutionary process to him.
Right.
So the horns that are synonymous to him, the horns on his face and his body that he actually uses as part of defense and weapons, they actually do have an evolutionary process. So Doomsday kind of grows and evolves as a creature,
Right.
and his defenses and his spikes and his physicality does grow. So it
So
could
we're seeing
very
the
well
earliest
be
form
that
of
it
him.
could
It's
be.
kind of like-
I mean,
Yeah.
in the trailer, he breaks right out of the laboratory that Lex is in.
Yeah.
So we don't know what stage he's at. We don't even know if he survives in this and comes back as a later villain. But my question is that what do you think the origin they're going to go with? Is he an ancient Kryptonian thing? Is the clip of Zod's body? Is
Well,
this
they
some type
should.
of
They,
weird
they
mutation?
should stick to. Oh yeah, that's what
Is,
that's
it,
what.
is,
because
it- is it a
I
weird
think that,
experiment gone wrong?
that's
I
what
mean,
it
do you
looks like.
think?
That's how the trailer's making it look because you see him unzipping the corpse
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. Well, then again, that could be something
Well,
completely
I think
different.
I think at the same time there's
But
a
like,
way
why
there's a
else
way
would
to
you
do a
add it?
little bit of both with that
Yeah.
too.
Pay homage to the original. plus
yeah.
this.
And then maybe they
Plus,
just need
yeah,
something
you know.
in Zod just to wake him
Something
up.
Kryptonian.
Yeah,
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 something,
exactly.
yeah.
Something Kryptonian, yeah.
So something.
I don't know, I
There's-
think,
And
there's,
also
I
when
think
it-
there's a way to meld the two into something that's original yet amazing and sticks to its origins.
Yeah.
And
Now, guys, when we say original, we mean pre-52. I don't think that they're going to do anything from the new 52. I don't think we're going to see this viral situation inhabit any character, especially Superman. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right, it's too new.
But I do think Zod's body and Kryptonian genealogy has to play somehow here.
Oh,
it
right.
has to be with the
Yeah,
experimentation.
definitely.
But we could very well see an evolution. I didn't think he looked bad. I thought the trailer looked very promising.
Also, I want people out there to understand, especially when it comes to trailers. A lot of times they get this footage and they release it because people are thirsty
Yeah,
for it. They want
absolutely,
whatever.
absolutely.
So the
there's a
special
lot more
effects
work
on
into it.
movies, special
Yeah.
effects are being touched up to the day it's released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing
Yep.
behind the scenes features of Transformers, and Michael Bay is literally sitting there with his team. Like we have to get this out tomorrow. The premiere is tomorrow.
Yeah.
I need this tweak, this tweak, this tweak.
Absolutely.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like they're
No,
touching
so they're
up on
always
it
kind
every
of
day.
they're always kind of
So it's like the first thing you see in
Absolutely.
the trailer is not necessarily the end product.
well,
No,
yeah,
no, that's
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
very true. No, I think what people need to realize is that for decades we've been fighting for DC to bring more villains to the screen because we've only generally got the same recycled Superman and Batman villains. So now people should be excited that we are now moving forward where we're getting some new people. Doomsday, one of the most iconic Superman villains, and we're getting it on the screen.
Absolutely.
I'm very excited. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about this and then move on is that some people have discussed the whole role of Superman and some of the images that they've seen. What I mean by the images is they've seen Batman held captive, and they've seen soldiers with Superman's shield, his crest, bowing to him. And there's also a clip where Batman's fighting, and there's winged creatures there. Now, The winged creatures, I can tell you, they have to be parademons. For anybody that doesn't know what parademons are, they are the army and mutated creation of Darkseid. Darkseid lives on a planet called Apocalypse. He has an army of his own that he goes to different planets to conquer. They're called parademons.
One of
Those
Superman's biggest
exactly
foes.
Yeah.
look like parademons. And I believe that if that's a dream sequence or whatever it is a prelude to the fact that I bet my bottom that Justice League Part 1, the villain's Darkseid.
Yeah.
But
Oh, you
with
know they
that-
want to bring him in because everyone's
Well, yeah,
calling
everyone's
for
been
it.
talking about it. yeah.
Absolutely. But with that said, what do you guys think about that? Is this a dream sequence? The guy's bowing to Superman. Some people say it could be a Bizarro. That Zod, it's
Oh, I think
it's a
that would be a little too much
clone,
if it was
and
bizarre.
Lex is
You
trying
know,
to
well,
make
you know what I
his own
think?
Superman.
If you take from
What do
the
you
Dark
think?
Knight, if you take from the Dark Knight Returns, Superman is, well, even though he's thinking he's doing the right thing or whatever, he's still working for the government, and the government's not always right. Sometimes
Absolutely.
he's basically turned into their lapdog. So that's why Batman comes in to try and put on the straight and narrow and just be like, trying to.
So you think
So-
that could be a little bit from the
It could be a little
the
bit
graphic
from that,
novel,
where he's doing
from
something.
Frank
He's
Miller's
like, this
story,
guy's
yeah.
causing trouble for what I'm doing, so let me see what he's all about. Let me see, let me try and talk to him. So they capture him, and he has to, confront him or whatever. But Batman
Soldiers
ultimately,
bowing to Superman, though. That's way out of
well,
character.
he is.
Yeah.
That's way out of character, though.
Well,
even for
You say they're wearing his crest. I mean, that could be his own little special unit that he. That,
Superman as a unit. That's
It
something
could be.
interesting.
Just saying, it's
that's
possible.
taking
That's
Superman
fun.
to a new level.
Right.
I don't disagree with Adam. If they went with the Frank Miller story, obviously they're going with. I should say they're going with it anyway. But if they went as far as what Superman's role was, he was a complete servant. He was a complete servant to the U.S. military and.
So he
Reagan.
thought he was doing the right thing, but a
He
lot of times
did.
he wasn't. That's
He
why
did.
Batman had to keep
Yeah.
him in check. He's like, no, you're
That's
doing
an
these guys
interesting
bidding.
theory. What do you think?
Yeah.
Ash? You think it's a dream sequence, or you think they could be more of Frank Miller's direction
I don't
on
know.
this?
I think if it's a dream sequence, that would be interesting. It leaves
Could be.
leaves a lot of room for
Potentially a
for-
premonition.
Well, so
Yeah.
what would your thoughts on why would that be a dream? Like what purpose would that serve to put that as a dream sequence?
It could potentially be a premonition. That's why the parademons are in it. It could be Darkseid coming. For anybody that doesn't know, they actually explored this
That's a good
story. Now listen, in the Superman animated series, I'm talking about Paul Dini and Bruce Timm series that went on in the 90s, okay, which was connected to the Batman animated series. They actually played with the storyline Legacy, which was a 2-part, 1-hour episode where Darkseid comes, tries to take over the world, and he actually subjugate and mind controls and takes over Superman. And Superman becomes his puppet.
Yeah.
Now my question is, could we possibly be seeing a Legacy story on screen? Could Schneider have liked that idea? That happened in the comics, happened in the cartoon, it's been played out many times. Could this be a dream sequence between Wonder Woman and Batman where they're seeing that Darkseid's coming, and that if they don't all rally together, Darkseid could potentially take control of Superman, and he'll have the perfect
possible.
weapon
Yeah.
against us.
It's absolutely
That would be an
I
interesting. Listen,
I would like to
as a
see
comic
that.
book
I
fan
mean-
of both
Yeah.
the cartoons and the comics and all that stuff, a Legacy type storyline in a dream sequence, I'd love.
That's
it.
what a lot
I'd
of
love
these
it.
people
I
do
would
in these
absolutely love
films.
it.
Is a lot of these filmmakers will take little bits and pieces from their favorite stuff to make
Absolutely.
one great
Well,
movie.
that cartoon was ridiculous.
So yeah.
I mean,
so
what
just
Paul
like what
Dini
Ashley
and Bruce
said
Timm have done
about
over
like
the
why
years
not
is
see a little bit of
ridiculous.
each?
A little-
And
yes.
So let's see a little bit of
Absolutely,
everything. If it makes
absolutely.
if you take like what it's the best part of every single storyline and throw it into one and make it work, then yeah, I'm all for
What's
it.
Absolutely.
the final thought I have on Batman vs Superman is that
Batman will win.
Superman will, but
Oh boy.
what we have here is that we finally have a Superman that now is trying to find his place in the world, and then we have the obstacles that he's going to face. So
Yeah.
it's clear that we're going to have a movie where we have a Superman trying to be the hero that we know, the kind of the patriot saint, if you will, the hero that he is,
Yep.
and we have the obstacles that he's going to come. And at some point, this is going to bring them together with a larger goal for the Justice League.
Right. And we're gonna see right now the groundwork for what makes Superman and Batman such a great team. Obviously,
Absolutely,
the groundwork
absolutely.
laid,
The
you know,
duality
Absolutely.
between
show
them.
what pages they're on and keep each other in check and whatnot.
I think we're gonna have a very awesome battle. Don't forget in the Frank Miller story, the only reason why Batman wins is because Oliver Queen helps him, and he has a kryptonite arrow. And
There's nothing
while
wrong with
Batman
that.
is the tracker
You got
who fires
man versus
the
God,
Okay,
and he's the
here
only
we go.
man
Here we
to
go.
ever beat Superman.
First
and that's
of
the
all-
best thing. That's the best thing about Batman is he's always 10
First
steps
of
ahead of
all,
his enemy.
We have
always
no
10 steps
idea
ahead.
how much kryptonite will play in the movie because we've only seen one shot of it.
True.
Where Lex Luthor's
Which
looking
I
at
thought they
the
weren't
bomb
even going to bring it into the universe because of
Well,
the first one.
originally Schneider was against kryptonite, but obviously
Yeah,
it's
you
made
can't.
its
You
way.
can't go that far
I
without
mean,
it.
I mean,
it's
we
part
need
of
it to
it's
some
part of its
capacity.
foundation.
We
It needs
don't
to be
know.
there in some way.
We don't know what role it's going to play. Obviously, we know there's no Green Oliver Queen, so nobody's helping
Right.
Batman Batman in his fight.
Right.
Okay, so, but anyway,
gonna
guys,
do it on his
I,
own.
obviously, we're supportive of Batman vs Superman. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to
Absolutely.
be an incredible movie.
it's
I
gonna be
really
fun.
do. I think it's going to launch the DCU in the direction it needs to.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be great. And I think all of them, Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, I think all of them are going to kill it, Gail
Mm-hmm.
Gadot. And I love Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Let's be
I'm
honest.
excited to see him
Luthor-
play.
Luthor-
I'm excited to
Hate
see
him.
him play this role.
Lex Luthor.
Honestly, you know,
I'm
from all the
very-
comedies you've seen him done stuff, this is a little darker, and I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
I think he's
He's
gonna
a great-
nail
think
it.
he's-
He
I
is.
think the direction he's going, which is just pure insanity, is the way
Yeah.
to go.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's literally just going as like a untouchable, just psychopath.
Right.
And to me,
Yeah.
that's every bit what Lex Luthor.
It's a great line that he has
Yeah.
in the trailer. I remember it was like psychotic, whatever. It's a 3-syllable word for ideas
Yeah.
too big for small minds. Or whatever.
Absolutely.
I love
Yep.
that line.
That's
He's
such a
just-
great line.
he-
Yeah.
The way he-
They're,
Yeah.
touched her head while he says it.
Schneider is obviously making him every bit of the comics. He's making him a just untouchable, brilliant Donald Trump, if you will, businessman with
Yeah.
billions
Genius.
of dollars, and he's making him a genius scientist that just has no rival.
Absolutely.
So anyway, all right, Batman vs Superman, guys. March, you're not gonna miss it. We're gonna talk about it after the movie, but the movie looks great. Have faith in Schneider. That's all I
Yep.
say. Have faith in these
Exactly.
guys. You've got monumental guys behind this movie. Have
Absolutely.
faith.
And Batman.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Okay, here we go.
There's the sell.
All right, so moving a little bit away, DC Comics. Now we're going to go into the realm of Marvel. Okay? And when I say Marvel, I mean the
Jumping ship.
Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because
Right. So we're
Marvel
starting with the
does have two
cinematic universe. Talk about the
universes.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Right.
We have Fox, what Fox is doing, and
Yep.
we have what Marvel's doing. But let's talk about Marvel, okay? Captain America Civil War.
Woo!
All right? Adam is obviously very excited.
Very
I'm
excited.
excited.
Love
I'm-
Captain
yeah.
We are all
Love it.
excited. Who's not excited about another Marvel movie, another Captain
But
America?
Captain America itself, because Captain America Winter Soldier, what they did with Winter
Incredible.
Soldier.
I mean, it's one of the best Marvel movies.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yep. You take
Absolutely.
away his suit, and that's just an amazing espionage film. You know,
Yeah,
it's just-
yep. It is.
Yep.
It is.
You know?
I mean, the Russo brothers, who are the geniuses behind all the Captain America films,
Yep.
they were the first to say before Winter Soldier came out that this is a old school 1970s spy thriller.
And
they
And it
lived
felt- and it
up
felt
to
that way.
that.
And it felt that
lived
way,
up
yeah.
to. Let's not forget.
Absolutely.
Bringing Robert Redford in, I mean, was
Yeah,
just
right?
whoa. You
He's
know,
great.
Hydra's leader and the diabolical
So
guy.
good.
I mean, it was like Thomas Crown Affair meets Captain America.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just what an amazing movie.
And with concepts that are so prevalent to today, like the whole Big Brother thing, and how
Yeah.
much
Absolutely.
freedom are you willing to give
Absolutely.
up
Yep.
for safety and for protection and stuff
Absolutely.
like that, and all that, and the fall of Shield and whatnot, and just the corruption.
Yep.
It's just everything that you could
Yeah.
It was.
parallel
It was
to
no.
what's happening.
It was very much about
I think
today.
everyone in some way, shape, or form can relate to it, no matter who, what, when, or
Yes.
why.
Absolutely.
You know?
Exactly. That's why it's so
I think one of
successful.
the keys that we want to look at with Marvel is that the interesting thing to me is that what DC's doing, what we just what we discussed about Batman vs Superman, is that they're very much taking the comic book and making it real. Okay,
Right.
Yes.
they're very much about let's bring the pages to life. Marvel has seemed to, interestingly enough, because it's actually Marvel making the movies,
Yeah.
but they've seemed to go in a direction where they're like, the movies are their own.
Yeah.
And they've seemed to really go away from the comics now.
Right.
Even though foundations of villains and ideas are there. But
Yeah.
let's be real. Winter Soldier and all these other things, they're very much their own stories.
Yeah.
I mean, Winter
Absolutely.
Soldier,
It's fine for me.
maybe Bucky Barnes in the comics, etc. But the stories themselves, they really are MCU stories now.
Right.
They're their own thing that are now driven by the foundation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, I mean, my question is that we're moving forward to Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
Right.
Civil War now. I mean, guys, you're moving into territory that is, considered some of the greatest stories Marvel has
Yeah.
told
Yes.
in their comics.
Sa-
In publication.
Sacred, if you will, to most
Yeah,
people who
yeah,
read them.
absolutely.
It's
Exactly.
And that's
sacred.
another thing I wanted to touch
So,
on before
like,
you guys.
but my question is that you'll go back to it.
Yeah.
But my question really is that how does this direction that Marvel has done, where they're kind of doing their own thing, play
Yeah.
going into these iconic and legendary stories? Is this going to hurt them that they're really doing their own thing?
Well, it depends. If the Russo
yeah.
brothers nail it like they did the last one, then I don't think it'll hurt them at all. But I just want to say first, for anybody watching that doesn't know this, because you'll be surprised how many people don't. They ask me when the Civil War's come out, they're like, why is Captain America fighting Iron Man? A lot of people don't even know that this was a comic book.
Yeah.
So
They
that's
don't
one thing.
even know.
Before we get into the depth of it all, let's just tell everybody that this was one of the most famous.
Absolutely.
Civil War was one of
Yeah.
the most famous comic books in the Marvel universe. So.
Absolutely.
The
They're
Marvel.
not just making this up for
No.
for
The Marvel Civil War comic book storyline was perhaps for me. First of all,
and a lot of people too. You can speak for
the first thing that I will say is that just going based on numbers, it was tremendously high in revenue and publication numbers.
Yeah.
So Marvel
Yep.
killed it with this storyline.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was popular. It was killing DC. Put Marvel on the map, and it was selling out. For me as a fan, and I think a lot of fans, it probably was one of the best stories Marvel has ever written.
Yeah.
So that answers
Connected story.
that answers that
Connected
question
story.
about the cinematic
Absolutely.
universe. Like, why wouldn't they
Absolutely.
tap into
Yeah.
that?
Why
It's the
wouldn't they?
biggest
Of
one.
course.
They have to.
Now, just to give you a little background, because like Adam said, this obviously is something that not everybody knows. What happened in the comic book storyline was that, and I'm just going to brush over some of this for you guys. An incident
notes. Yeah,
happened
cliff notes, yeah.
in Connecticut, okay? Now, if you don't know, the Avengers became a team all over the place. Meaning that there are
Yep.
different Avengers. There's East Coast. There's different teams that are run and controlled by the
Yep.
epicenter of S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain America, Iron Man. The
Yeah.
main guys, they control other cells.
Yeah.
It expanded to different heroes. Kind of like Justice League Unlimited, if you will. So what happens is that a team confronts a group of villains in Connecticut. There is a disaster. And there is an explosion that kills men, women, and children.
Yep.
This is not taken lightly by the world. And the world reacts with a demand that superheroes have to be controlled by the government. So the government responds by creating the Superhero Registration Act. And it mandates that superheroes have to be under the command, control, and training of S.H.I.E.L.D. They have to tell them who they are,
Yep.
relinquish their identity, and they have to be controlled, trained, and run as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
This does not go well for
Huge
Captain
problem.
America.
Yeah, it's a
Nope.
huge problem.
Now, a lot of people get behind this. Iron Man, now, getting beside all the other people that get behind it, the focal points is Iron Man and Captain America. Captain America sees this as an breachment of our freedom. He feels that even if S.H.I.E.L.D. has the identities, any of the villains can hack S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Because he's-
get the identities, and kill any of these people.
Especially in the
that are
cinematic
at that level.
universe, you know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is capable of. And you
Absolutely,
know who's running it, so-
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So in the comic books, Captain America is not for this. It's a breach of liberty, breach on the
Right.
safety of these people that have put their lives on the risk.
I agree.
Iron Man does not agree. He feels that if they don't do this, then we will lose trust of the people, and he feels the whole reason of being a hero is.
And he has
is
less
to
to
be
lose
for the
because
people.
everyone knows.
Everybody
who he
knows.
is.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
no,
So
no,
much
no,
less
no,
to
no,
lose
no, 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 no.
In the cinematic universe.
This is let's
says,
talk about the
Iron
comic
Man.
first. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the comic book first.
Okay.
In the comic book, again, he held his identity back.
Well, yeah.
So, people didn't not necessarily know that he was Iron Man. Let's just talk about the comic books. So what happens is that you have polar opposites. Obviously, S.H.I.E.L.D. goes after Captain America because now you're an enemy of the state if you don't do this.
Yeah.
So what happens is that Tony Stark decides to tell everybody, again, that he's Iron Man in the comics, so they know, and he goes out in front of this thing and says, I'm all for this. At the time, Peter Parker is a member of the Avengers, and he's living at Stark Tower, working for Tony Stark's company as a scientist. He's making tons of money. He's got the best gig of his life, and he's married to Mary Jane, and his Aunt May's there, and they're living on Easy Street, and he feels accepted for once as a hero.
Yeah.
So what happens? He teams up with Tony, and he goes with Tony
wouldn't he?
because Tony's like a dad
Yeah.
to him right now.
Absolutely.
And he tells everybody, I'm Spider-Man, like an idiot. And now you've got Team Tony and Team Cap, and it's a bloodbath the whole time between them until the very end. So now let's fast forward to the MCU. Now that we've kind of educated people on the Civil War. By the way, Spider-Man, towards the second act of this story arc, decides that after he sees bloodshed, okay, that he decides to go back on the side of Captain America. Even though everybody knows who he is, he decides the right thing to do is to switch sides.
Right.
I want everybody to understand that fans are not just complaining for no reason. Spider-Man is a huge element of Civil War. The
big
writers
aspect.
made him a huge element. He's a huge element when he's first with Iron Man and he becomes Iron Spider and he's with them. And then he's a huge element when he turns coat and decides to go back to Captain America's side. He is a major element and a turning point of this. That's why fans are so into it. Which is why Marvel tried so hard and convinced Sony to give them Spider-Man, because you can't have Civil War without Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if the MCU is on its own, you'll have fans that'll just walk out of the movie
Yeah.
if Spider-Man's not a part of it. So with that being said, let's talk about Civil War's differences and what we think we're going to get out of Civil War in the movies. Because the MCU is beaten to its own drum, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you know,
Yeah, it is.
can it live up to this? I mean, if it's not like the comics, is it going to be good?
Well, just going by the trailer, I'm very excited for it. I think it can.
You don't think it looks like the
mean-
Bucky Barnes show?
No, not the Buggy Barnes show. I mean, I think they're
Looks like
using
Cat
him.
and Buggy.
They're obviously using him a
think-
lot because the last
Well,
movie
yeah.
was called Winter Soldier. It was all about him. So they're trying
Right,
to
right.
they got to sell tickets first.
That's
you know
the
what I mean?
focal
Right now,
point
yeah, the
before
focal
they
point.
break into everything else.
Exactly. So what you see in the trailer is
I
not
hope that's
necessarily.
true. I do. I hope that's true. Personally,
Yeah.
as much as it looks like it's got a lot of action stuff, it felt like the Bucky and Cap show. It felt like it was
I'm
going
with
to,
Ash.
in some way, be a soap opera
Yep.
that was about the
Right.
two of them, and then Iron Man is just going to be like, "Hey, no." like,
No.
Like-
Yeah.
down
might
to
actually say it like
down
that.
to Iron Man's line. That's like, "We used to be friends too," and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
but this.
This isn't about
This
friendship.
isn't about friendship.
No.
Or it's
Right.
not supposed to be anyway. This
This
isn't
is-
about friendship.
this is about
This is
liberty.
about right and wrong
Absolutely.
and liberty.
It's about
And-
liberty and
So whose side are you
And-
on, right or wrong? Who do you think is right?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, both of them had both of them had some points that made sense.
I mean, yeah, like any
Yeah.
other good debate, both sides of the argument have strong points, but
Right.
I kind of agree with Cap. I think
too.
I don't
Liberty
think
wins
yeah.
out in the end,
I think
yeah.
Liberty should trump everything, but
Absolutely.
you know,
Well, let's be honest. I mean, if anything, Cap was proven right because I mean, Peter Parker. I mean, Aunt May is killed because the Kingpin
Yeah.
knows who Peter Parker is. He eventually
Exactly.
finds out who Peter is. He sends an assassin to kill Peter, but the assassin misses and hits Aunt May, and Aunt May is killed in that storyline. And I mean, that's just a symbolism and just example of what actually was Captain America's fear is that
Point
these things
proven.
are
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, even though
But
Peter Parker
some would argue
came
it's
out,
just collateral damage for the right, for different.
well, obviously,
but it's-
that's
Well,
that's
but-
what
but-
separates.
But I agree with
but
you. I'm on
at
Cap's
some
side as well.
point, what's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference between collateral damage and Cap still proving his point?
Absolutely.
I mean, sure, it's
Absolutely.
collateral damage. He wasn't aiming for her, but
Right.
No.
at the same time, if he didn't know who Peter Parker was,
Of course.
would that have ever happened in the first place? No, probably not,
No,
because
no,
they still
definitely
wouldn't
not.
know that he was
Definitely not.
Spider-Man. You know?
Well,
Yeah.
Iron Man's argument is that Peter Parker revealed himself to the public. The idea of the Registration Act is that superheroes' identities will be kept secret to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
But still, we know that that's all
Well,
BS.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
obviously, even like the movie Winter Soldier, and this happens in the comics, guys, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a corruptible force.
Absolutely.
S.H.I.E.L.D. through time and time again has been compromised.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, so Cap is absolutely right to have his doubts about them holding
Yeah.
and scrutinizing
Yeah.
the security.
He's
of
been
it.
burned too many
But-
times.
but-
Yeah, exactly.
But my question is, will this be the true divide of the movie? Will Civil War be Civil War? And what I mean by that is, will this movie be about the politics of the Superhero Registration Act and about the demands of superheroes being controlled and their identities known by S.H.I.E.L.D. and the polar opposite
Yeah.
beliefs of Cap and Tony? Or will this just be about Cap believing that Bucky Barnes should have amnesty
Yeah.
for his actions and him wanting to save his friend from a life of persecution and
Yeah.
imprisonment?
Well, to be honest,
Like,
that's how the
what's,
trailer.
you know,
that's how
That's
the
what the
trailer
trailer sells
feels.
it
The
as,
trailer
yeah.
doesn't
But my
feel like
fear is that that's
this
not Civil
big
War.
debate, and that's not Civil War.
No, it's
exactly.
not.
It
Right.
feels like it's all about
But
Bucky.
you could also make the argument that they're doing that to sell it, to sell the movie to the people that don't know the comic books that well. But then once you get in the
Right.
seats,
And they're gonna
then the
jump
comic
into
book
it.
people will
The
be
storyline
satisfied.
Well,
Okay.
we do have.
Well, I hope
It
so.
could be a mixture of both. It could be like it could be predominantly on like Bucky and that way, but they could also bring in the
Well, we do have
Yeah.
the scene where General, what's his name?
Ross?
Ross,
Ross,
right?
yeah, from Hulk.
Pushes a giant, looks like a giant
Yeah.
bill, you know, towards Captain
More-
America.
more like a
and then
textbook.
the fade Krostazov next shot is, you know, some people think you've been operating with unchecked power.
Yeah.
You know, so between that line and the kind of giant pamphlet
might be a little
book,
Easter egg
is
that
that
we
the
need.
Superhero
The Easter- yeah.
Registration Act?
Yeah.
It's possible.
You know,
True.
you know,
I might be like, don't worry, guys. We're gonna do the right thing, but we just need to get everybody on board. You know
all
what I
right,
mean?
so
Well, yeah, okay, so
possible.
that's a good point. Is that so many people watched the other
Winter
movies
Soldier.
Right.
and Winter Soldier
Yeah.
that
You're trying to reach
that
everyone.
yeah, just because we know what's happening, no one else who has read didn't read the comics or anything, they don't know that this is what's supposed to be happening.
Right.
So you need to sell it
So
to
when
them.
they see the trailer, like, oh, Bucky's back!
Right,
Yay!
yeah,
You know?
exactly.
For us, like,
Also,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
another possible Easter egg could be the fact that Captain and Tony are talking, you know, in a conference room. You see in the trailer, looks like a S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters of some kind, and you know, Tony's telling him, you know, about that they've operated with, you know, this unchecked power and unchecked presidents,
Right.
and then you know, Cap is like, well, I don't see it that way, and Tony's like, sometimes I just want to punch you in your
perfect teeth.
Yeah,
Punch
yeah.
in your perfect teeth. I'm just want to make sure we consider all our options.
Obviously, that seemed like a little seed of Tony's attitude from the comics, where it's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't agree with that. I think we should work
Right.
with the government. We need to entrust faith in
Right.
people, in us.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there needs to be a level of faith. So
Right.
there is some possible Easter eggs. What about Spider-Man, though? Let's talk about that. Spider-Man's massive role we just discussed in Civil War, both on
Yeah.
Tony's side and then eventually on Cap's side. This huge part that he played in it. We know that Sony worked out this deal so we can get Spider-Man, thank God.
Yes.
But the question is that we haven't seen him in any trailers.
No.
We have no information on what his role exactly is, what capacity it is compared to the comic books. So what do we think?
I don't think it's going to be a big part.
So
I think
you
it's
don't
gonna
think
be
I
very
feel
small.
like it's going to be a cameo.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get the Civil War Spider-Man.
No.
I
don't
would
think
love
so.
to say
Yeah.
for the love of God, I hope so.
Yeah.
But if that were
I don't think
true,
so.
that would mean he had a lot of screen time. And don't you think he would have in some way been in the trailer?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
You know
a
what I
question
mean?
I'm
Like-
asking.
Also,
would he be in the
because
trailer?
they
Do you
got
think,
him.
You think they would reveal him even if he does play a substantial role at this point?
Oh well, maybe not. If they don't like to give too much away in the
much
trailers,
away,
which
yeah.
unfortunately
I
went the
mean,
way of the
listen,
dodo nowadays.
guys, I'm not trying
But-
to take anything away from how much the fans love Tony Stark. They love Robert Downey Jr. They love Cap. But let's be honest here. There is an unprecedented amount of love every time Spider-Man is mentioned, whether he's
Absolutely.
on screen or not.
Well, he was
in
the-
fact, the fact that he's now in the MCU, he is. I feel that fans are probably the more excited out of anything to see him.
If you think about
So
it,
they may be holding him back just for the fact that he is the best element of the movie. That
Yeah.
they
Oh,
want to
it's-
see.
it's
It's like
absolutely
he's like their
possible.
element
You
of
know?
surprise,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when the first trilogy came out, when the first one, the Spider-Man came out with Tobey Maguire, that introduced so many non-comic book fans into the comic book world that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
fell in
Absolutely.
love with it. I remember my sister
Yep.
never watched comic books, was never into superheroes.
Spider-Man.
Went to go see it, and she was like, "Oh, I loved it. He was hilarious." Blah blah blah. It was
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
So-
There's a huge love for.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Spider-Man has definitely been their flagship. You know, Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
argue what you want, Avengers comics and whatnot, but Spider-Man has
it all
always been
started
their flagship.
really with that, you know?
I mean, it's Spidey. You know, and now Spidey's in the MCU, so. There's a possibility maybe he could have a larger role, but unfortunately we don't have any evidence of the contract.
Right.
We just know what his role is in the.
But we just know that they got they got the actor and they rushed him into production, so we
They
know
did.
he's in it. We
Yeah.
know
So
he's,
there's-
we know,
there's-
We
there's
know he's
something
there,
out.
yeah.
All right,
I'm
so
hoping
so,
it's more than just like you said before, a Luke Skywalker cameo. I'm hoping it's more than
I
that.
hope it's not.
Yeah.
that.
I wouldn't
Do
be
you
surprised
think,
if it
okay,
wasn't.
here's a question. Do you think it's really going to destroy the movie if Spider-Man doesn't have the same role he had in the comics?
I don't think so. Because, like you said, they're marching to the beat of their own drum.
Yeah, I don't
and-
think so because of the foundation they've set up in the last
Right.
movies. However, as everyone loves Spider-Man,
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the case. I want to see him
I'd-
predominantly in this
I'd-
movie.
Right.
Like I
I'd-
want to see that,
Right.
and not just because we know the comics and we know that that's where it should be going.
That's
but
where it should.
He's such
My-
a strong character in
Yeah.
general that
Absolutely, yeah.
why not do that? Especially since you fought so hard to get him back in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like why
You
waste
know,
it?
yeah.
You're not gonna
absolutely.
waste it.
Yeah.
But
You know,
this might
my-
also be the situation where this one he's just sprinkled on this one, but then they have
Well, because they got the standalone movie.
right. 'Cause
Yeah,
it happened
right.
so quickly, you know. Only thing
Well,
happens so
you know,
quickly,
my,
we might
my
focus on it
feeling
later
is,
on.
is that if they can incorporate some elements, like for instance, if
Which
they
should
can
they?
have Tony Stark kind of find this guy kind of fumbling around and see great potential in him
Yeah.
and take him under his wing and kind of improve his tech
Yeah.
and improve his abilities, and then that's why he sides with him, but then towards the end of the movie he realizes that he wants to stand as his own man and he believes in liberty and then jumps to Cap. That could be a great way to inject him, and I'd
Yeah,
love that if they kept
absolutely.
some of those ideals. All right, so moving away from Spider-Man, one of the other big elements about this movie is now the introduction of Black Panther.
Panther,
Who,
yeah.
let's not forget, is one of the original members of the Avengers. He's also the
Prince of
leader-
Zamunda.
No. I think that's probably Eddie Murphy. Got it. No. He's the king of Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Okay.
Was close.
And
that
Wakanda,
up
for
all
anybody
times
that
fast.
doesn't, Wakanda is the home of the element of vibranium.
Which they
which is
touched
what
on
crea-
Age of Ultron.
Yes, they
Right,
did.
which created
Yep.
Captain America's shield.
Yep.
Same thing in the comics. And in addition to him being this great king of Wakanda, okay, and being the Black Panther and original member of the Avengers, he's also a part of a group known synonymously in the comic books that has existed from the beginning of the Avengers, the Illuminati. The Illuminati is a secret group of some of the greatest members of the superhero families, meaning Tony Stark, Mr. Fantastic, Nomar, who we don't have yet, but he's like the Aquaman of Marvel, and and we have Doctor Strange.
So he's
in the
useless,
team.
is what you're saying.
No, stop. But the point is that a lot. It means a lot that Black
Right.
Panther's
Yeah.
coming to screen. He's getting his own standalone movie after this. So my question is, one of our last topics I want to talk about with Civil War is him. is the great king of Wakanda, Black Panther. He's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of fans that love him. He was a big deal. He's a big deal for the world. Wakanda's a big deal.
Yeah.
What it means.
It
Black
sets
Panther.
up this whole other universe that if you don't know the comic books, you don't even know. Is
No, it's
a
gonna
thing.
open your world.
You don't even know it. I'm excited to see how they bring him in.
Yeah.
The same thing
Yeah.
with Spider-Man, but like, even if you didn't read the comic books, you watch the movies of Spider-Man, you have a foundation.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
Black Panther's a whole new ballgame.
Whole new.
So how do you introduce that?
How do you introduce Wakanda?
Yeah.
They talked about it.
talked
in
about it,
Age of
they
Ultron,
didn't-
but like
they
now
didn't
we
use
got to know that a country
We won't-
exists somewhere.
right, we
By the
won't
way,
see that.
geographically, where the hell is Wakanda? You know, like somebody needs
We'll
to show
never
me a
know.
Marvel map.
We'll never know.
It's about 4 miles east of Metropolis.
Yeah. I mean, like, is it near Egypt or like I don't know? Is it near the Mediterranean
Definitely
Sea
in a
or
hot-
something? I don't
definitely in a
know.
hot weather.
It looks
Yeah,
hot.
right, yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
near Africa.
I
I
mean,
don't
Everyone's
know.
always sweating when they talk about it.
But okay, so how do we bring in Wakanda? I mean,
You don't-
could it? Wait, here's the thing. Could it potentially be like a UN summit where Tony's standing there and he's talking about the Superhero Registration Act, and it's like, oh, the chair from Wakanda has something to say. You know? I mean, is it that?
That would be
subtle?
interesting.
I don't think
Or
they will.
That would be
I
interesting.
think that'd be too much. I think
Too
they're
much.
saving that for the
But we
origin
see
story.
Yeah,
Wakanda.
for the
I'm
origin.
thinking
Yeah.
we're gonna get Black Panther the same way we got Ant-Man. Ant-Man just they
showed up.
find him on a
Shows
rooftop
up.
and he fights. He fights.
So he's
Yeah.
suited up already.
yeah, I think
so he's
that's how we're gonna
suited,
get him.
he's
suited,
ready to
he's
go.
got him, and people
You
are
know
like,
that
who's this guy? What are we
There's
doing?
been
You
there's
know?
been a few conspiracy
Who's this guy
there's
throwing
not
vibranium
conspiracy
daggers
theories.
at my
There's been a
face?
few like conspiracy theories that the reason Bucky's being blamed for all of this has to do with Black Panther.
Is that
Why?
right?
And I don't know. I read it on
he
like
does something
yeah.
with Black Panther.
I don't know. That would
Maybe
be
he
interesting.
encounters-
That would be
maybe-
interesting.
Maybe one of his like Hydra missions was Wakanda.
Yeah, right.
You know,
I don't.
Yeah, it's
I,
possible. We
I
have
think that would
so
be
much
interesting.
time. If you
Don't
think
you
about
think
it, we
they
have
probably
what
want
70
vibranium?
years that
The
that
good
we don't
old
know
the
about
good old
Bucky?
interwebs and
Let's not
conspiracy
forget
theories,
something,
but I
guys.
mean,
Let's
Internet super
Let's not
highway.
forget something, guys. That a lot of stories in the comic books were driven by the fact that a lot of villains want to go after vibranium from Wakanda.
Yeah.
Vibranium is a big deal
Yep.
in the comic books. It's everything to a lot of people. So that's not a bad idea. Maybe when he was bad Winter Soldier, he was sent something. The question is that do you think that the Civil War can survive by introducing two mega people like Spider-Man and Black Panther without really giving them proper origins? And like Ash said, Wakanda's a whole new ballgame, guys.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, is this gonna make it?
Well,
by
they
not
already
really
slated a
focusing
Black.
on
They
them?
already slated a Black
Yeah,
Panther.
but
You know what I
It's
think?
Civil War.
I
That's
think
what I'm
it's
saying,
one
so
of
they
those
won't.
things
They'll
where
still
it's
hold it.
gonna. I
And
think
you
it's
think
one of
it'll be
those
okay.
things where it's
Yeah.
gonna make you want more. You know,
Exactly.
you're
That's
gonna
what they
see
want.
this
They want you
movie,
to want more.
and then you're gonna be like, "What's his deal?"
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's
but
gonna be like, "Here you
why-
go. Here's the whole movie
But
about
then
it.
why,
Surprise!"
why
Like,
is he on Team Iron Man, though? Why? If there's not a big story behind this, why does he side with Iron Man? Because he's a king? He thinks that you should always be a part of the government? By the way, everybody, Black Panther was obviously...
Prince of Zamunda.
this is the same side that he
you
was
keep
on.
milking that one.
But my point is that why go Team Iron Man?
Well, maybe he's probably Iron Man's probably the only one that didn't try to fight him when he first showed up. You never know. You know, maybe
Yeah.
once he showed up, and Captain America was, "Who's this guy?" Or something's like,
I
"This
feel
guy's
like-
not fighting me." I'll try
I feel like there's no right way to answer that question because we don't know enough yet.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we don't.
We don't know
Right,
enough
all
yet. How
speculation.
can you know?
It's all
Yeah,
speculation.
exactly.
I have a feeling, and I could be completely wrong, but I think that we might not even see him underneath the mask. I don't even think we're gonna get a whole thing. I
wouldn't
think
surprise
it's
me, yeah.
just Black Panther, and then it's left to us, and it's like, well, the origin movie, you'll see Wakanda, you'll see him rise to power,
Excellent. Yep.
his
Yeah.
father die, him giving him the mantle, taking it over. I don't, because like everything I see in the trailers, it's kind of like this guy is like scatter and run. He like enters the fight, fights, kind of leaves.
Yeah.
I feel like he's gonna be like a weird Dark Knight almost, if you will,
Yeah.
element of the movie.
Absolutely.
Like he's kind of like back and forth,
Now he's obviously what's it called? He's shown a lot in the trailer because that's the character everyone's calling for. Everybody wants it. He looks cool. I think the suit looks
Yeah.
awesome. And it's
Oh,
kind of like when
they did a good job.
it's like when they
He
introduced
looks
Falcon
awesome.
into Winter Soldier. He
Yeah.
had some of the coolest action scenes. So in the Winter Soldier trailer, he had a lot of time in
had
the
a lot of
trailer
screen time,
because
yeah.
it looked cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of people
Absolutely,
like to
yeah.
show like what is going to grab people's
yeah, no,
attention
Black
right
Panther
away.
looks awesome.
So
Yeah,
it looks cool.
absolutely.
it
Well,
gets
it
you
definitely
close in
grabs
the
your
trailer.
attention. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
that's what they're looking for, and that's another thing. The thing that stinks about being fanboys like us, we're not going to get everything right now.
Yeah.
We want it. It's like, this is America. I want it now. It's like they have
I mean,
plans.
what were they saying? Marvel's got stuff up to like 2030 to 2027.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
just- it's
everything's
just-
just waiting.
it's
Like,
just-
yeah.
You know,
It's just ridiculous.
So it's like this is something that's going to
Well, I
go
mean,
on
now-
forever.
well,
so
now-
they're going to let
Now
it out little by
DC's
little.
catching up. I mean, they got the same ridiculous slate-headed.
Right, yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
you know,
They're
it's just-
releasing it little by little.
yeah,
They don't
yeah.
care about us. They care
No.
about the younger kids who are
Well,
growing
because
into
they
it,
know
and,
we'll
like,
wait
kids
for
upon
it.
kids
They
upon
know
kids.
we're not going to not go see it.
Exactly.
Why would we not go see it?
That's why
Like,
they're aiming towards the younger kids who don't know it that well.
Yeah.
They're they're focusing on them because like their parents are going to go because we're
Yeah.
all fans.
Of
We need
course.
to take our kids so their kids can take their kids because that's
Yeah.
how long this is going to
Also,
go.
Yeah.
one of the last things I want to leave, guys, is that in the movie Thor, just to let everybody know, Thor and Hulk are not a part of the Civil War.
Right.
Now, the reason why they're not in the movie is because they weren't a part of the Civil War comic. However, there's two different reasons. In the Civil War comic, Thor was dead by this point, so he couldn't be alive. And Hulk, was shot in a spaceship out into space because they couldn't control him. And then he landed on a planet.
He's out there
and
somewhere.
that's how the planet Hulk
Planet Hulk,
became.
Yeah, Planet Hulk.
Now, in
Which is also a
this,
cartoon
that's
you
not
can
going to happen.
Yeah.
In this, actually, they're making it that Hulk and Bruce Banner is connecting to
Bruce
Thor in well, I mean, the
Yeah.
we'll see
Hulk
Hulk.
slash.
Okay,
Bruce
yeah.
Banner.
Well, we'll see.
like
He's
it
going to
better.
be part of Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're kind of off in the
Doing
other
their own
realms
thing.
doing their thing.
Yeah.
Which is
A
fine.
little
Their
different in the
fights are too big
comics,
for it.
but
I
at least
kind
they're
of like that though.
keeping them-
I like that,
Well, at least
it's
they're
something
keeping
you
them
can
out
keep
of
in
it.
mind when you do go see the next Thor
Right.
movie. Is that like, oh right,
Hulk's
this
gonna
is-
make a-
this
make
is
a-
all happening while that was happening.
Exactly.
Like
Right.
holy
Exactly.
shit,
Right.
like
So that
Happening.
answers
Like,
that
yeah.
answers the little answer when you're watching like where's Thor and Hulk or whatever. Then you see that movie coming out and you're like, oh well, this is what they were doing. This is
that
Well,
sucks.
I we all certainly hope that it lives up to people's expectations as well as honors one of the greatest comic books ever
Yeah.
written in Marvel's history. So,
There's a lot riding on this.
May guys, Civil
Don't mess
War,
it up.
Okay. Okay. So,
I got it.
They got it.
I got it.
I have all faith.
Do you
I have
want
all
to
the
stop,
faith
Cameron,
in
or
the
just
world.
keep going to the next topic? Should we just keep rolling?
Are you guys good?
I'm good.
You guys
You
are on
good?
a roll. This is great.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
let's keep-
So let's
keep
move on to
rolling.
Star Wars now.
Star Wars. So we're,
Okay. So.
So wait.
Oh,
what-
no, no, no,
Oh,
You
boy.
want to go to
wanna-
Marvel? You want to go to
Yeah,
Marvel?
we should stick to the. We
Okay,
should
let's
stick
go
to
to-
that, and
let's
then
go
we'll
to- let's
because
go
it's
to
like a
Marvel.
complete change of topic.
Okay, so X-Men Apocalypse of the Devil. All right, so staying a little bit on the Marvel train, although this is not, I don't know how to even say this anymore. Is it Marvel? It's Fox and Marvel.
It's
but when
Fox
you
Marvel?
say Marvel, everybody's like
Farksel.
the MCU.
But-
I like that. Okay,
Do
Farksel.
Farksel.
Okay.
I
X-Men.
just trademarked that. Don't use it.
X-Men and all mutant properties are owned by Fox.
By Farksel.
So
Yep.
we have Deadpool.
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 The
I
merc
am
with the mouth.
Not even
Yeah.
acknowledging that a Fantastic Four movie came out in 2015 because it was shite. So
Wow,
just-
that's even bold of you to even mention it.
yeah, no,
Press the
I
fast
can't.
forward button.
Yeah, that's it. Whoop, there we go. So let's talk about Deadpool.
Yes,
Obviously, Ryan Reynolds, who is
Born
Deadpool,
to
has
this world.
been
He's been dying to
a
play it for so
champion
long, you know?
of this
Over a decade.
character. He has been
Yeah.
trying
Over a decade.
He's been trying to get this movie made for over a decade.
Yep.
He loves this character, and let's be honest, we wouldn't have Deadpool if it wasn't for him.
No.
Because
No.
he's the reason
Absolutely
behind
not.
this.
Yeah.
So with that said, Deadpool right now, okay, is a home run. I mean, it
Oh,
is a
yeah.
home run.
Yeah.
It has broke box office records, and besides the massive money
Against
it's making,
all odds.
Yeah.
Against all odds.
besides the massive money it's making, it is critically
Critically
loved.
acclaimed.
Fans,
Yep.
critics,
It's like 83%
regular
of Rotten
People are
Tomatoes.
going, people are going
This
crazy.
movie-
R-rated
Yeah.
movie.
This movie is a home run, and a lot of people have dared to come out and say that this thing is a complete superhero movie game changer.
Oh,
Okay.
big time.
So let's talk about this because we've got history. We've got the first R-rated superhero movie ever, and it was a home
That's
run.
bold. It's bold.
And it was a home
Wait, the
run,
first
guys.
one. The first one. I'm sorry. Is it the first one ever? Or is it the first one that has been this nationally accepted?
it's the
'Cause
first one
What
ever.
about Warzone? Warzone wasn't R.
Punisher Warzone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may be right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying this is.
Yeah, that would make
but that was like a
sense.
darker, more kind of like a cult type thing. This is the first one on such a
Let's be
broad
realistic.
scale.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's
know?
the first like widely
Yeah.
released
One that the
franchise.
parents
Yeah.
actually have to tell their kids, like, I'm sorry, but I can't take you to
Nobody
this.
even
You
knew
know what I
Warzone
mean?
existed. But yeah,
Exactly.
You're
So
right.
that's what I'm saying.
No,
Something
no,
that's
Adam's
Yeah.
right.
such a huge
But
part
still, what it means. I mean, this is a hero that is honestly like any other hero. He's on lunchboxes and T-shirts,
Oh,
Yeah.
like
hugely
any
popular. 'Cause he
superhero,
looks
and it's
cool.
R.
He looks
It's
cool,
talking
yeah.
sex jokes.
Yep.
I mean, and there's nudity,
It's
and
vulgar,
it's just
it's
vulgar.
violent.
Yeah,
But yet
exactly.
he's
Gratuitously,
a
too.
But yet he's a superhero that's like that everybody loves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
what does Deadpool mean? I think for the well,
It
does
shows
it
the
mean
studios.
something
gives
for
them.
everybody or just Fox?
No,
That's the question.
One thing
You
that I'm
know?
like, you know those
I don't
memes
know.
where like
That's-
winter
yeah.
is coming. Like,
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
saw this movie, I was like, oh god, here comes the copycats. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure so many Deadpool-like movies will be coming out now because people can now show that they'll have faith in these R-rated, darker, like really crass themes
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it on a broad scale.
Well, let's look
Well,
at it this
yeah.
way. How does it affect the MCU and we mean by the MCU, which is Marvel Studios with Disney, their
Yeah.
world, and even what DC's doing. I mean, how does it affect the other superhero community?
Unfortunately, I think it's just going to stay in the realm of Farksel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
It
I don't
is.
think it's
But-
gonna,
oh, it
because-
is, yeah.
But do you think it'll affect the writers and filmmakers of those movies? Do you think they'll look at it and say, "Wow"?
I think it could.
This took.
I think
You know what I mean?
should.
I think it could in the DC universe. My concern with Marvel is that Marvel technically doesn't own Marvel anymore. Disney does.
Right.
In some way.
Well, they're their own
And-
studio,
and
but yeah.
Is Disney really going to tarnish their name by
No, they
by
will
getting
not.
something by going that little bit more darker? No,
They
not.
won't. They
They
absolutely
never
won't.
will.
So they
it's
probably,
not. It's just not going to
so
happen.
they probably
No.
won't even ever approach Fox to get Deadpool.
No.
No.
They
They
just
said,
never
they'll be like,
will.
congratulations,
That's-
that's
yeah.
your thing, but we own the world. So like, we don't need
Exactly,
you.
yeah.
You know?
Take it easy.
It's
Well, that's
true.
The same, well,
It's
that's the same thing
Star
as why.
Wars.
That's the same thing as why like Netflix hasn't merged with Shield or anything, because they're two different. Netflix is. I mean,
It's
you've
doing its own
seen
thing.
it. It's doing its own thing.
yeah.
It's a little bit
Well, look at
darker.
Jessica
It's a little
Jones.
more
That was
risque.
like-
Yeah, it was a
that
lot
was
more
ash.
risque. Like,
I mean,
yeah.
she was banging. I mean, excuse me, witness.
Yeah.
She was banging.
Making
Lily
They
love.
Rose.
were not
Making
hiding that.
love.
Yeah.
No, they were not
Yeah,
hiding.
they were
it.
not
No,
hiding
they were
it. Like,
not.
and do you
You
really
know.
think ABC was going to let that happen on their TV show?
Absolutely
Absolutely
not.
not.
Absolutely
so that's
not.
the same thing with
Absolutely not.
what was your trademark word here?
Farksel.
Farksel.
Farksel,
Farksel's doing their own thing because
But you
there's
think
no
that it
way
could have an
Disney's not going to take
impact
that
on
risk.
DC?
No, of course
But
not.
you think it could have an impact on the
I
writers
think
of
it
DC?
could have an impact
Because
because
they're dark already.
DC's already a little bit darker. I think that they have the opportunity to go there.
DC's had sex scenes, man.
Yeah.
DC has had. I mean, in the Nolan series, there was risque moments.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, let's be
Not
honest. it was
as- not as
But what I'm
risque.
saying,
I'm sorry, but
I
no,
mean-
no, but Adam, let me rephrase that. I just mean that DC throughout its life has
Right.
not necessarily shied against those things.
No, not at
They have
all.
not as gone as far as
You know what comes to
Deadpool,
my
but I
mind?
mean
The
that
first
DC has
time
done it.
when I was a kid, I realized I was a man was when I saw Michelle Pfeiffer in the Catwoman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When she licked his lips, I was like,
I'm
wow,
only,
I'm a man.
I'm
Yeah.
only agreeing with Ashley is that if anyone's going to take any nods from this, it
Right.
would be the guys in DC. Because even if you look at the new trailer of Batman vs Superman, just real quick, I'm just going to say this: you see kind of a love moment where Clark jumps into a tub with a naked Amy Adams. Not that
Yeah.
we'll see any of her skin,
Right.
but still we're going to
Right.
see. I mean, it's going
Oh,
to get
yeah,
close.
skin cam.
That's risque for a superhero movie next to
Yeah.
what Deadpool's done. That's all I'm just trying
Yeah.
to bring up.
Right.
So I agree with you. All right, even if it's just a game changer for Fox, isn't that something we should be happy about? Because we know Fox is not giving up its stuff.
Right.
We know they're
Right.
not. So now, does Deadpool mean that we don't have to anymore be like upset
Be
or
foaming
or-
at the mouth at Fox. We don't have
Right.
to anymore.
Like we don't have to anymore just be like, oh yeah, Marvel's coming out with a new movie. Great, this is exciting. Then Fox comes out and it's like, wow, this is not a
Yeah.
Marvel movie. We're not excited.
Right.
anymore.
Right.
But like, is that over now? You know what I'm saying?
I
Are
wouldn't
we now gonna
necessarily say
get
over,
too-
but it's definitely loosening the grip.
Yeah.
Because they let
I was gonna say,
Ryan
one
Reynolds.
movie's not enough, but
Exactly.
Well,
it's-
yeah,
But
yeah.
it shows the
you're in the
spark.
right direction.
It's a spark.
Yeah.
It's a spark to
Yep.
the flame. It's a spark that
So
where it
could we
shows
be
that they let
approaching-
because Fox is behind it, but it let Ryan Reynolds and the writers
do the thing.
do their thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was brilliant because they nailed it. Obviously.
Oh my
And
God.
now
Yeah.
seeing the success, hopefully something clicks in their brain. They're like, you know what? Maybe we should let the other guys do their thing,
Maybe.
which what they have
Absolutely.
with First Class and kind of and
Well,
like
I think Bryan Singer earned that level with
big
X-Men.
time, big time.
Oh,
but
well,
still,
yeah.
for them to back
You
off
know.
a bit and not do what they.
Apocalypse looks like they backed off a lot.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, it
so
looks,
this
it
shows
looks,
that
this
they're
looks like a,
they're
like
moving
a
in the right
Bryan
direction.
Singer
Because
Yeah.
thing.
like
yeah.
you said, Fox is not giving it up. So now we should stop. You should just get over the fact that like give it back tomorrow. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So now we should just be like now we should try and do what we can to jump on board with Fox. with
Right,
Fox.
like try to
know.
acknowledge that we love all of these characters.
Right, keep doing
so,
this.
So the thing is that hey, can we have quality films from both studios now?
Right.
If you're both gonna have it,
Yeah.
let's have quality film.
Exactly.
So
now
now
let's
we
move past this little bickering that we've been doing. The fight's
And-
over.
and just make
what
quality
can we do to
films.
make this stuff great?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I think Deadpool obviously proved that we now can have a second studio making Marvel movies that are worth our time. So that's something that's exciting. Obviously, Ryan Reynolds was born to play this character. Guys.
Yes, he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
He embodied Deadpool right off the pages of the comic books.
Yes.
Now,
Even if don't strike me for saying it. Even in X-Men Wolverine's the origin, when he played Wade Wilson, not when he became that ridiculous Mutant X. When he played Wade Wilson, he showed that he deserved that role. Like he was the
absolutely.
perfect
Absolutely.
guy for that part. The Merc in
Yep.
the mouth, like they said, he was just
Yep.
sarcastic as heck. And ever since Van Wilder, you could just even if I didn't know
Absolutely.
even if I didn't
Yeah.
know that he was such a big fan of it, I would have been like, wow, this guy should play Deadpool. You know, because he's so
Absolutely. Yeah.
sarcastic
Yeah.
and like his
Absolutely.
comedic
No, no,
timing.
no,
is
he
great.
was
You know?
absolutely phenomenal. I mean, everything that they did with that movie. Now, if we look at it from a comic book standpoint, how many people you think really went into it so married to the comic book? Because I feel that a lot of conversations that have taken place about the reaction to Deadpool.
Small percentage.
Wait, hold on. It's been mostly about how great the movie is and about how great Ryan Reynolds was and how great the execution was. But I've heard very little comparison with Deadpool compared to how much comparison for Captain America: Civil War and Batman vs Superman. This is one movie I've heard very little comparison to the source material. And my question is that was that how low the bar was set for Fox, or was that just people were like, hey, it's just Deadpool, like we just want to see a cool movie, or
I think
like
it's
what?
a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, part of me thinks you've heard Ryan Reynolds talk so much about how he loves Deadpool and how much that you kind of were like, I think I trust him, and
Absolutely,
therefore,
his passion showed.
and therefore we didn't feel the need to bring up the comics because
Right.
we were like, Ryan Reynolds knows his shit. Go forth and prosper, my child.
Yes, exactly.
Go for it.
like he's got it.
'Cause I
Like,
know a lot of Deadpool fans,
know?
but I have a couple that are diehard Deadpool fans, and they even said when they saw the trailer, there's like this, they pretty much got the origin story right, but they got everything else so right. It's like they're just happy that Deadpool's on screen.
Absolutely.
This is a day that a lot of them, their fans never thought would come. So the fact that it's on screen and it's being pushed as hard as it is, and how big it is,
but people were calling bullshit until it came out at Comic Con. People were like, "I'm not going to believe you until I see that trailer.
Absolutely.
I don't believe you."
Yeah, because
like,
that leak test
you know,
scene wasn't enough for
yeah.
people. They thought that could have been
Which-
something.
it could have been anything. Yeah, exactly.
funny little side
Ryan
Exactly.
Reynolds could have just made it for fun. He
Yeah.
claims he didn't leak it, but whatever.
No, he said good. That's a funny little side note. I like he said whoever leaked it, he was like I'll give you my address. He's like, come over to my house. I want to make out with you for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
He was
So
like,
I don't disbelieve.
Yeah.
The thing is that we could sit here with any of these movies and we could pluck the differences between it and the comics. And obviously, Deadpool had a lot of its differences, but ultimately, I think.
But Deadpool did it on purpose. Deadpool.
Well, yeah,
It was,
deliberately.
and that's another
yeah.
thing. In case you didn't notice, he was the only character to basically break the fourth wall like constantly. Like he.
How about
loved
the how
breaking-
about the how about the special effects? I mean,
That's one thing I didn't expect. I expected the humor.
effects.
I expected the
Yeah, because they
performances and
kept
stuff like
talking
that.
about how this thing was on a shoestring. Because Fox
special
was like,
effects do
It
not
does-
show
it
that.
doesn't
was
look.
like-
It doesn't look it.
doesn't
Yeah,
look
it doesn't
it.
look it.
The opening sequence alone grabs you. The opening
you know what
sequence,
it
I'm like,
is?
holy God, and we're in for something totally new.
Yeah.
we have proven time and time again, and even with the new Star Wars, that in order to make these movies good, there needs to be a marriage between practical effects and CGI.
Yeah.
You cannot rely only on CGI. If you do
right.
that, it looks like a video game movie. Okay? And what they did in Deadpool was Ryan Reynolds was in that suit, and he did a lot of those things practical. There was moments of CGI, of course there were, it has to be,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of practical stuff he did, and I think that just goes to a testament that we're proving now, as advanced as we are in 2016, that still practical married with CGI is the way that makes
Yeah.
great
Well,
sequences.
it makes it more believable, you know.
We like
it
it
makes
better.
it way
and
more
makes it look
believable.
better.
It doesn't, you know.
That's what I always bring up when I'm reviewing movies, especially movies like the new Transporter or like Agent 47 and stuff like that. Like I give them a little bit more leeway because they're based off of at least Agent 47 was based off of a video game. But when you're watching it, you feel like you. Oh,
two of those
but
movies.
I'm just getting to the point of special effects. You don't realize how great like you said the mixture of practical effects and CGI are until you see a movie like Agent 47 where it's
Absolutely.
all CGI and
Absolutely.
you look like you're watching a video game, which is I guess it's fine. But I didn't come for a video
Well,
game. I'll
ultimately,
play the video game if I want to play
Ultimately,
it.
I think Age of Ultron had a lot of those problems where it was just too CGI.
All
heavy.
CGI, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
not, I mean, a lot of that stuff looked cartoony. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
say.
Which stinks
Even,
because
I
you
mean,
could
if
tell.
you watch it in full clarity and Blu-ray, like 90% of it is like cartoony. You're like, wow.
Right. You
this
could
is
tell
rough.
where they put all the money in like Ultron. I thought looked spectacular for this visual effects.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the robot army that comes out, and
Oh
stuff,
my God.
that's when it's just like
It
whoa.
looked like,
wait.
it
You
looked
can tell
like,
they
a
didn't
video,
put
it looked
much-
like a video
Yeah,
cutaway
it did.
scene of a
Yeah,
video
it
game.
did.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now that we love Deadpool and we recommend it highly to anybody to see because it's a game changer.
So good.
For
And I
comic book
can't
fans,
wait for the
and
second
I was in
Yeah.
a packed theater of
Anyone,
mixed. I was in
anyone.
Manhattan with of mixed people. I saw the girls enjoying it more than the guys. The ones that you could tell were dragged by their boyfriends, whatever. And they were just they're leading up because they're like, oh my God, this is so
This is
fun. This is
awesome.
so, yeah.
Okay, so this is a great way to segue into our next topic because Deadpool is in the Foxverse. Okay,
Yep.
it acknowledges X-Men. We had Colossus in the movie. We had
Yes.
a conversation
Yep.
about
Oh, goodness,
So
thank you
now
for bringing Colossus.
Fox has already said that there is a shared. Moving forward now with the
Yeah.
success of all of this, there's going to be a shared universe, their own MCU, if you
Right.
will, between X-Men and Deadpool. So let's go into the new X-Men, X-Men Apocalypse. So we've gotten a taste of some of the new X-Men, okay? By seeing Colossus in action in Deadpool. We see all the trailers for Apocalypse. Apocalypse,
Quicksilver
guy.
in the last one. And Days of Future Past.
Absolutely. Apocalypse, guys, is a fundamental X-Men story.
Same way you do with Civil
Apocalypse-
War. Explain to them
Absol-
who Apocalypse is. Like, just give them the bullet points.
Apocalypse is the original mutant. Okay, so if we're gonna track the genealogy, if you will, of the mutant gene,
the Messiah.
you've got Apocalypse. Okay, and Apocalypse got together and instilled power in 4 other mutants, let them ride by his side to conquer the world. And naturally,
Horsemen of
this
the
is the 4
Apocalypse.
horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay, and now a lot of fans have complained. Okay, and if you haven't heard this, I'm going to tell you
Wait,
now.
fans complain? That's so weird. That's
They
not
don't
like
do
that.
that.
Wait, no.
That's so weird. Where, on
That-
the internet? No.
That the
Back to my
4
interwebs.
Moviecreepshoot.com?
I'm telling you, that the 4 horsemen in X-Men Apocalypse
Right.
is not the actual 4 horsemen in the comic books.
Okay.
Because
Well,
in
just
the
like
movie,
the original First Class was not the original First Class. People are always going to complain.
the Days of Future Past was not the proper, storyline.
Well, yeah.
So
You
it's
know,
like
but
that-
it doesn't matter. But the 4 horsemen in the movie, one of them happens to be Magneto. Okay, now Magneto is like Magneto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope by now we don't have to explain to people Magneto. So Magneto is not a part of the 4 Horsemen, but he's in this because what Bryan Singer's doing is, and you know what? I'm usually the first person to complain. Ooh, this is not like the comics. I really am. I'm annoying like that, but I will not complain about this because I get where they're going with this.
Right.
If
Yeah.
Apocalypse showed up in the X-Men world that we have in these movies, why would he not seek out the strongest that we have in
Yeah.
those movies?
Absolutely.
Magneto, since the new version of Fassbender, what we have,
I love
he
Fassbender.
is unstoppable.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
every bit the driving force for
Absolutely.
Magneto. So why would he not be part of? Plus, we also know him. He's teetering on that edge of I can't stand humanity, and mutants are supreme. Apocalypse is coming in. Remember something, guys. Even the Apocalypse in the comic books, he is all about creating the ultimate mutants and abolishing and re-evolutionizing the human race. So, fast forward into the movie universe now, it totally makes sense. The horsemen.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it was like we were
Okay.
saying with Civil War and stuff. It's great to stick to the comic books, but you still have to have something
You have to bend
tie
with it.
everything together for people who don't read the comic books.
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
know, and I think that was a great way to do it.
This
you
looks
know,
like an
why,
awesome
like
time.
you said,
Oh,
why
absolutely.
wouldn't you seek one of the strongest mutants we've seen in the latest set of X-Men movies? Why
Absolutely.
would you not do that?
Absolutely. And,
know?
and I mean, let's be honest, Magneto at his side, that creates such a powerful story,
Yeah.
a powerful storyline.
Of course. I think the same way, what's it called? When the first Avengers came out, the same way they knew, because Captain America's the leader of the Avengers. But on every poster, who's front and center? Tony Stark, because that was everyone's
Absolutely.
favorite character,
Absolutely.
whatever. So
Absolutely.
that I think, and much like that, Michael Fassbender is the driving force of this latest franchise.
Yeah.
It is centered around
Him
pretty much
and Jennifer
Magneto's.
Lawrence seem like
Well,
the two.
yeah.
Oh, especially exactly. 'cause
Jennifer
not only-
Lawrence is Jennifer Lawrence, and,
Right.
and I'll be and I'll be honest, guys. Mystique, although she was a big deal, I don't think was ever as big as. I mean, she's not as big in the comic books as they make it up. But it's
Right.
Jennifer Lawrence.
That's the
You know,
reason why
and she's
Fassbender's
driving it.
character
Yeah.
and his storyline is like the driving force of these movies, but yet Lawrence is because she's the Academy Award-winning actress. So
Absolutely.
it's like we have Jennifer Lawrence, we have J-Law. She already has her nickname.
First
we have
of all-
J-Law. I see J-Law.
First
You
of
know
all,
what it is.
guys,
Yeah.
I will acknowledge as a comic book fan, and people should know this. Mystique is not a good character. Okay, in the comic books, Mystique is with Magneto, and she is a bad character. She is one
Yeah.
of the baddest of the bad guys. The X-Men go up against her
Yep.
often. Against
Yeah.
her often. She is a driving force. She is badass in the comics, and she is cool. She is
Yeah.
not quite the character that they've made Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer
wanna make her
Lawrence is
lovable,
now
they
a
wanna
good
sell
guy.
toys.
Yeah.
You know, and there's not a lot of that consciousness, if you will, and conscience in Mystique in the comic books. But again, another change that I'm actually okay with.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
That
yeah.
I like
I mean,
what
because
Jennifer Lawrence is doing.
I
you
with the
wasn't
character.
saw
so
her.
attached to the character
I mean,
that I would
you
get
saw
upset about
her
it.
go to Magneto, and then you see her kind of have this change and revelation, and come back, and I'm okay with it.
It's working.
It's working.
no,
Yeah, it's working.
It's definitely working for them. So let's talk about Apocalypse in the sense that he's definitely different from his comic book counterpart.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I feel like Bryan Singer has grounded him a little bit more in reality, as hard as that is. But I feel like he's going for more of a grounded version. His power's less. You know, Apocalypse in the comic books was unstoppable. His power was just supreme.
Right.
I mean, he was really. I mean, he had multiple powers. He was the strongest mutant. I mean, he really could pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
I don't really know if we're getting the same extreme in that. But the question is that are we okay with kind of the grounded modernization of Apocalypse right now, or
I am, 'cause
or is
the-
it taken away from the comics?
I am, because I think the supreme power is very easy to mess up, like they did in
Right.
Green Lantern with Galactus.
Oh yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So if
Oh.
you make this
Yeah,
Green
great
Lantern,
supreme.
you mean Fantastic Four Civil Servant? Galactus.
Oh, wait, all
Are you
right.
talking about Green Lantern with Paradox?
Paradox. I'm sorry. Paradox.
Yeah.
The big cloud thing with the
Paradox.
Parallax.
Parallax.
I'm sorry. Parallax. Galactus.
Yeah,
It's kind
yeah,
of hard to
yeah.
keep track of all these names.
No, but that's
that-
a perfect example too. Is Galactus was a cloud in Silver Surfer?
Right,
Yeah.
just a
You know,
cloud.
a cloud that
So
eats
it's like,
things.
so it's, when you have that kind of immense
A
power,
conscious cloud. And,
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
and you have that
anyway,
kind of
yeah.
that immense power, it's very easy to mess up. So to ground him a little bit more and make him more plausible to
Yeah.
wrap your head around, I think is okay.
I mean, also we don't
Yeah.
know. We haven't seen the movie. I mean, he obviously could be as unstoppable. You know, I don't know. He does rely on the Four Horsemen, obviously, but you know, I still feel from the vibe of it, it seems like it's grounded. And plus,
Right.
we know the other X-Men are grounded. I mean, even the other ones that are
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
Future and First Class, they still were kind of grounded in their
Yeah.
powers as well.
Absolutely.
All right, we haven't seen Wolverine in any of the trailers. So what's our
Wolverine
biggest
is nearing
feel?
his end. No, I heard the rumors that he's nearing the end.
He
one of
may
his
be,
final-
but he's still in the
final
movie.
performances
What is
and
it?
stuff
I mean,
like that. I think that they're trying.
Wolverine has been a big part of every single X-Men movie and every single
Yeah.
trailer.
Is the
Hugh
reason for
Jackman
all
has
of
been
these
the only
movies.
successful thing Fox
Right.
has done up until now, of course, I should
Right.
say. But let's be honest, he's driven the success of all these movies, or at least getting people in the seats. The fact that Hugh Jackman's not in this trailer, what does it mean? We know Wolverine's in the
I
movie.
hate to say it, but it kind of sounds like Hugh Jackman's over it. Like,
You think so?
I don't know. It,
Well, I
it
mean,
feels
he's
that way.
exhausted.
Like,
He said on a
yeah.
number of occasions he's exhausted.
Yeah.
He loves the character. He loves everything he did for him. He's just a little exhausted.
It's a
But
lot
I
on a
think-
guy. It's a lot on a guy,
If
man.
you
Yeah.
think, if I was the marketing standpoint, if I was in the room and I know that Hugh Jackman's on his way out and I want to sell tickets and whatnot, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna wean people off like drug addicts. You wean them off of,
Yeah.
of what
Right,
they need
and get them into
so
the
it's
other
like
ones.
exactly because like if
yeah.
we know
Right.
that Hugh Jackman's last movie's coming up, he'll still be in this one, but I'm not gonna show him in the trailer because I need people to start getting used to a world without him.
Absolutely.
Without him, yeah.
Well, let's be honest. If you date back to the older X-Men films, nobody was as much of a draw as the success of Wolverine.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
fast
Oh,
forward.
absolutely, yeah.
Now, fast forward. You have Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence, two
you go.
Oscar-nominated
Yeah.
actors.
Which that was
Okay,
why another
and,
reason.
and
The weaning them off. Here's two more
Jennifer
great
Lawrence
actors
has carried
that
one of
we're
the
gonna
biggest
give you,
franchises
like,
ever, Hunger
yeah.
Games.
Absolutely.
So it's like okay,
Yeah.
we can substitute a little
Yeah,
bit.
so
Absolutely.
we'll wean you off of
What
Hugh
do you-
Jackman, but we're
how-
gonna give
how,
you more.
How big of a
of
role
those
do you
two.
think Wolverine has in the movie? Because again, going back to comparisons with comics, Wolverine's a big deal. Big
is.
deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. He's part of the X-Men. He fights Apocalypse. It's a big deal of the team,
Yeah.
man. He was there, right? You know, he was involved in every confrontation they've had with Apocalypse. He was
Yeah.
one of the big, you know, I mean, he's an X-Men, you know, so the question
Yeah.
is that if he's a smaller role in this, I mean, that kind of, that changes the game, man, compared to the comics.
Yeah.
I
But
hope
do
they
you
don't
think
do
he's
that.
a smaller role, or he's
That,
just not
that
in
would,
the trailer?
I don't want to see that.
That's
that
a
would be
good
terrible.
point.
Yeah, yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I'm with Ashley.
Maybe
though.
because
If,
he
if
was-
they wean down Wolverine, I'm going to have a problem with it. Not because of Hugh Jackman, just because I'm a comic fan and Wolverine's an X-Men.
Yeah.
And he's in that battle
Right.
just as much as
Yeah,
anybody
you're in
else.
it. You're in it to the end.
Yeah.
You know, so if this
I
is
mean-
your
I
last
mean,
go, go
Wol-
out
I,
with a bang.
Listen.
I was about to say,
Come on, man.
honestly rather see him go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Wolverine's second in
And that,
command
like,
at the time.
yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just, you know, he's got to be in the thick of it, guys.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the biggest enemy they've ever fought.
Right.
So you can't tell me that he's not in the thick of it with that.
Well, he has to be. I
He
mean,
has to.
In
be,
some
you
way,
know?
shape, or form,
But I'm
he has to
concerned
be,
without
yeah.
seeing him in the trailers.
Yeah,
And
no,
I've,
it's
and I've heard
interesting.
very little of him and him talking.
Well, we only got one trailer from it, right?
Two.
We have two
Right,
now.
two,
right now.
yeah.
So,
We're at two
okay.
now.
Oh,
We're at
the
two
second
now.
one was the
Thanks
Super
to
Bowl one?
Bowl.
Is that what
Yes,
it was?
thanks to Super Bowl.
Okay.
Still no Wolverine.
But it's like a 30-second trailer, right? The second one is if it's a Super Bowl spot, it has to be short.
Well, it was short. No, you're right.
No,
You're
it
right.
was
I'm
short,
not-
yeah.
Well,
So
sure, but
it's-
I'm just
yeah.
saying, you know, we.
No, I understand.
I mean,
That's
you're
what I'm
right.
saying.
We
Maybe
still
if
have
the third one
potential.
comes out, maybe we will see more.
We still have
we
potential
still
to
have,
see
we have
Wolverine.
potential to see more.
But we know that they can't go forward without Wolverine in
No,
this
I
situation.
mean just in general,
You know,
just
this is
the
Yeah.
brand
situation.
can't go forward.
Well,
without Wolverine.
I'm excited
Yeah.
about it. I think the X-Men have been doing very well recently. And,
Yeah.
and I think Brian Singer's direction is good. I think
Yeah,
grounding
thank God
and
they brought him
changing it-
back. Good job, Singer.
I honestly think that this could be a very, very, very good movie.
Absolutely.
And it looks excellent.
God bless you.
bless you.
Thank you.
How about Oscar? Last thing we'll talk about with X-Men Apocalypse. How about Oscar?
I was
Isaac,
gonna say that. That's
character?
actually- that'll-
Everybody has attacked him because one, they say is why didn't they synthesize his voice? Everybody says it shouldn't just be his voice. It
Yeah.
should be they should have changed it and made it more menacing and more kind of alien, if you will.
Do you think they-
Second, the suit. Everybody's made fun of the way he looks. They say he doesn't look anything like the real Apocalypse, and he looks weird. People have compared him to Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers. So this is our last topic on X-Men Apocalypse. Tell me
Which
what
is
you
great
think.
because
Is it okay?
it
Is his voice
segues
good?
into
Is
it'll
his-
segue into Star Wars too. Because
Absolutely.
for anyone that don't know
Absolutely.
out there, it's Poe
Absolutely.
Dameron from
Yeah.
Star
So
Wars.
tell me,
Oscar Isaac.
starting with Adam, look and voice. What do you think? Fans right?
I am
bad,
a
good?
huge. I mean, I can't ever say the fans are right because as a fan, like sometimes your heart.
I'm not always right.
No, it's true. As a fan, my heart could be so invested in
They
something
just
I might not be
totally-
thinking
yeah,
straight.
yeah.
You know what I
Totally
mean?
hate you now.
So
But
it's like,
yeah.
but I'm such a huge fan of Oscar Isaac, and I think I would trust his performance. If Singer trusts it, I'll trust it. I'm behind Singer.
So you
and
don't
I'm
think they
behind
should have
Isaac.
done something with the voice?
Well, no, I'm not saying they shouldn't have. Like, even if they you never know. If the backlash is that hard, they still have time to do it. Like, the thing.
Oh,
with-
well, yeah.
What about the outfit? Does he look like Ivan Ooze?
He does. He does look like
Ivan Ooze is
He does.
back,
That's a
guys.
great call. Whoever made that one, that's a
But
great
he's
call.
still Oscar Isaac, so he still looks pretty good
Exactly.
in it. I'm sorry.
And also, it doesn't really matter.
But does it look like Apocalypse? Is it doing justice to Apocalypse? That's the question.
But like we also said, we're trying to make him a little more grounded, right? So
Do you feel it makes it more grounded?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
I'm
that
just
we're
asking.
we're leaving that idea open by having it a little bit different.
True.
All right.
You know,
All right. So personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with the suit.
there's not a
I
single
think
Oscar
that-
Isaac movie that's bad. If you watch all of Oscar Isaac's movies,
awesome.
Please.
I mean, A Most Violent Year was absolutely
Amazing.
phenomenal.
Oh, his performance
Ex
was
Machina
amazing.
with both of them
He's
from
a
Star
phenomenal
Wars was
Yeah.
amazing. It
Ex
did
Machina
not.
is one of my favorite of
It
the year.
entirely did
His
not get
range
all
is
the
massive.
accolades it should have.
His
It's-
range is
yeah.
massive. His
Yeah.
range is massive.
He's an incredibly talented actor.
The one
and
thing that I will agree with is that I think that they could have done something with his voice. That would have been cool.
Right.
Otherwise,
But they
than
still
that,
had
I
a
got no
chance to.
problem with
I
it.
mean,
The
yeah, they
backlash is
do.
that hard. Because I remember when Bane, what's it called, the tweaks they did with Bane's voice, and
Yeah.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
seeing the first 8 minutes before Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and you could barely understand him.
No, they
And
definitely improved that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they improved
Hugely
it for the
improved that.
release. So you
Yes,
never know
yes.
what they'll do.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so thanks for checking out Critics Corner, our first episode, guys.
Yes.
Our big debut.
Great things to come.
Guys,
You're welcome, America.
check out our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Critics Corner page. Check it out. All news on all of these topics, Star Wars, comics, even Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. Any news, all the updates, rumors,
things geek.
everything.
Yeah, there's
One-
definitely way more on Facebook.
Even
'cause
more
we
stuff
we
is
have more
on
time to
there.
talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joyce, we are inheriting
Yeah.
the earth.
And
I want
We're
to
here
point
for you.
out that we post every single piece of news on there. More importantly,
Yep.
like and subscribe our YouTube page, comment. We love to hear feedback. All right, guys.
We want you to be a part of this discussion. We want you to be one of us.
Yes. Next week, next episode, we're going to talk about Star Wars and all the different fun television shows.
TV.
Yeah, and Star Wars,
The
yeah.
Poor Man's movie theater.
All right, guys. By the way, next week we'll be wearing the same shirts. Peace.